Ready? It's called our City of Port Richey City Council Workshop, Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. I'd like to stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, have roll, please.
I was trying to talk this out.
Yes, Mike's
Mayor
on.
John Aaron Cooper.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chris Mayer.
Here.
Councilman David Mueller.
Here.
Councilman Robert Hubbard.
Here.
Councilwoman Lisa Burke.
Here.
City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
City Manager Andrew Butterfield.
Here.
Thank you. Everybody's mics are on. Chief, you guys, I think when she started, everybody's turned on. So if you want to cut those off so we don't get background noise. Hey, Sal, that mic down there in the corner's on. Good? Okay. Okay, first up is comments from the general public. I do not have any sign up. We do have a couple out there. You guys want to speak now? Okay. Bring back to comments from the city manager. Pass it to Mr. Butterfield if he has any comments.
Not really, sir. Just the council asked for this, and as an opportunity to have a conversation about the structure of the city government. And so I think all the right folks are here. And
okay. Perfect. And then we'll jump right into council business. Item number 1, municipal government discussion. Let me pass that to Mr. Butterfield for introduction.
okay, we're currently in the council manager form of government, and I think, Mayor, it was you that proposed having a conversation about whether we want to make any changes to that. So again, we've got the clerk here and the whole council assembled, and I think you've been studying different formats. You might have some things in mind.
Yeah. So
you.
So sure. Let me jump right in. No real agenda. Obviously, this is a workshop just to have a conversation. I think as your swearing in night or the councilman after that, you brought up looking at government change, possibly. Obviously, we have Andy appointed as interim, and we're at that inflection point. Do we reach out and hire a permanent? I thought since we're in this situation, let's take a deep breath and talk about things and see if there's anything we'd like to tweak. And that can be small little tweaks here and there if we see that there's something that we don't like. And I would leave it on the table to discuss even broader sweeping changes. Again, let's just have a conversation about where we've been, where we are, and where we go. I had obviously bring in a whiteboard here, so if we wanted to jot down some things and capture those on there to come back to. I'll open with just some background information. So back when the city was first started, it was actually more of a commission style government. And that was changed back in 1994 to a council manager. It's actually interesting to go out and look at some of the history of that. And I wish I had more time to have done that. But I did put together, I had staff pull since 1994 who we've had in the city manager seat. Let me pull that up to start with. Here, let me share on my, just to kind of set the tone. Okay, I just sent the request to you. Okay. So this is a list since 1994, and I had to improvise a little bit on some of the dates. The accounting system went back to 2000. Let's see, 2004, and there was actually a gap, which I'm not sure why. Where you see this Ellen Pazovac, she wasn't in the accounting system for some reason, so that date to 2011 data wasn't. I kind of pulled that out of the some newspaper articles and stuff that I found online, as well as we didn't have anything prior to 2004, but I was able to go back and you had Max Pope, Vince Lupo. So sometimes it referenced the month. Like Max Pope was here until October. I don't know exact date, so I just put the 15th. It's the middle of the month. So that's why you see. So don't quote these dates exactly because some of them are improvised to try to put together a timeline. But what I want to illustrate here is since 1994, if you look at the chart here to the right, which basically takes the years of service, such a start and end date, just do a calculation, and then I graph that out. Our longest serving city manager obviously was Vincent Lupo, which was the second city manager, about 7.5 years. The very first city manager, Max Pope, 2.5 years. Then we had an interim in there. Jerry Calhoun was almost 3. Richard Reed right at 1. Ellen a little over 2.
What's the average?
I did not average these out, but we're looking probably about 3.5 years, 3 years around that range.
Less than that, or based on numbers.
I could average that real quick, but if we
Grab that column. I think your average years in there is probably close to 2.25 or something. Estimate.
okay, so if we sum that, that's 2808.
Well, actually, it usually puts it right there. It's 3.32.
Oh, did it average on our too?
It's automatic.
Oh, I just
So highlight that column.
well, I'm taking out the interims.
Well, no, they're actually. No, you can take the interims though. They don't. I'd leave them in. City manager.
We'll look at it both ways. So if you just take the actual city managers, they were
3.32.
3.32 years, so right around 3. If I highlight, include the interims, it's going to obviously skew that to the less, so 2 years.
07.
So on average, across all city managers, not including Andy, because obviously he's still here and it's been a short time, so I left him off of this. About 2 years on average with just looking at the permanents. And I will mention on one of the permits that I believe Ellen held interim and then she was converted to full time. I think.
Did she pass away?
I think maybe Vince too. He was interim at first and then went full time. A couple of them actually there was no interim before them. That's because they actually were the interim and they got confirmed as the permanent.
There was one woman that died in office. Was that?
That was mayor.
Huh?
That was mayor.
Oh, mayor. That's right.
So just kind of show you that we're not getting a lot of outside of Vince the first time. Not getting a lot of runway here with these city managers, and so that's kind of what probably prompted the conversation. Hey, what do we do at this point? Do we continue going down this path, and we have a city manager come in here every couple of years, or do we look at maybe other opportunities, other changes we might want to do to try to curb that? Obviously, that's not the intent of that style of government, is to have that kind of turnover. I think it's indicative of probably a smaller city that can't pay the top dollar, and so people jump around. Good question.
So do you have this on the mayors too?
I didn't do the mayors, but that's obviously
I mean, that would be important to compare.
every 3 years. I can tell you that there's not many more than one-term mayors.
So this is 3 point what?
If you just take the permits, about 3 years on average,
So they're
and
It's the same as the mayors.
which is the same as the mayor.
No
So
different.
I go back and do the mayor. I wouldn't.
Because you just said the mayors, we don't have many more than one-term mayors. So it's the same.
If you look back here, you don't see a whole lot of
So it's the same.
more or less. Exactly.
If you take out the interim city managers, it's 2 years.
If you include the interims, because
If you include them, it's 2 years.
they're all relatively under a year.
You include them, it's over 2.07. Almost 4. If you disclude them, it's over 3.
Right.
3 something, man. So that's just for comparison from the city managers. And again, this goes back to 1994. That's when it actually was changed. Before that, it was AI says it was strong mayor, but it was actually more of a commission style government. And if you on front of you here, you have the pre-council manager charter from 1994, where it lists out how it was organized, and you'll see that the mayor had certain group departments, the vice mayor had the fire department, I think, and then the other departments were kind of assigned to different council members where they would head that. So, but anyway, so you can look back at this. Obviously, there was some issues back then with that. Obviously, so why they decided to go this route. Council manager. It's obviously council manager is a very popular form of government. It's out there a lot. I will also share some other data I got from the Florida League of Cities. I was wanting to get the full gamut, but when you ask them for data, they kind of try to find data that is representative of your city size and demographics, right? And so, and this is kind of small, so let me zoom in a little bit. So this is a list of cities by population. So you see they're all in the 2,500 to 4,900, so relatively same size as us. And if we filter, and let's just filter on council manager, the vast majority of them council manager. Over here, you'll see some important information about how the council's structured. You have how many employees? I think part-time, and then you have full-time. That's what these first two count. So part-time, full-time. So you kind of see staff size. And then how's the mayor selected, whether it's by voters, by council commission, or rotational, or they don't have a mayor at all. And then that's the kind of the yellow ones in the middle. The little lighter yellow, how many seats are on the council, excluding the mayor? And then does a mayor vote? And the first comment is he can always vote. Second one, he cannot vote. And then only vote in the result of a tie. And so if I filter on just to look at other styles and do strong mayor, but in our population size, about 6, right? And those are the cities there. I think I looked at Valparaiso and Holmes Beach were kind of comparative. They know their staffing size, but Valparaiso, their staffing size is about the same. But if you look at the revenues and stuff, Holmes Beach is similar to us as well as that. So anyway, those are operating as strong mayor currently. And then you also have council weak mayor, which is more or less the same as council manager. Without looking into these, I'm not sure if they have a city administrator or what. I believe this is probably somewhat similar to the commission style, where the mayor's a little weaker, but everybody shares a load. Again, you have to look at each individual chart to probably see, because there's varying degrees of how those governments are structured. But just show you there is other forms of government out there. And these are kind of the base ones. You don't see commission listed. And like I said, commission is more or less just each individual council member has responsibility for some section of departments. Okay.
Can you show the council manager one again?
Yep. And you'll see us right there.
So overwhelmingly, it's the council manager.
That's correct.
Do you have stats of how many cities have changed from council run to mayor run?
No.
Or the turnover ratio for city managers in these?
No, yeah,
I'm sorry.
So
yeah, they have cities that were council run, changed to mayor run, or mayor run to council run.
yeah, I don't have that, and I don't know if that's. I can ask Florida cities if they have that captured.
I've noticed, well, I don't have the stat, but I was looking for that, and I couldn't find any that had switched from council run to strong mayor, but I've seen a lot that were strong mayor that had changed to
Yeah,
council run.
that's for sure. And I'd venture to say I don't know if there's been any. If there has, it's probably been a handful. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, without looking into each individual government. I'm not sure if that's a metric out there we'd be able to get relatively easy. But
Right.
but for the sake of conversation, obviously, I just wanted to have some kind of stats that show that you got whether one changes or not. I think is irrelevant. This conversation is more about take a look at us as an individual city, right? unique city. Every city's unique, has unique needs, unique public to serve, unique structures, right? And so I don't want the focus to be on this discussion is to change from one government to another. That's not what this is about. That could end up being something as an option to come out of the discussion, but that's not the focus. The focus is where have we been, where are we now, and where do we want to go? And in going to where we want to go, what is the best structure? And it could be the same structure at 100%. It works. Obviously, there's lots of cities doing it, and it works. And the key to that structure is a guy sitting in his chair or gal sitting in his chair right here. And as you can see, we've had some good, some bad. Somebody posted on Facebook that Jerry Calhoun, best one we ever had. Again, I wasn't here, I don't know, but that was somebody's opinion. Others, take them or leave them, right? And so one thing that you lose in council manager form of government is that representation of the people. And I love, there's another comment I read out there, and I obviously probably one of my haters, I guess, or just a mayor hater in general, but they had said, well, what style of government gives the mayor the least power because we want to give more power back to the people? And I thought, you're totally missing the point here, because the less power that your elected officials have, the farther away you are from the decision-making process, right? But if council sets up here, but at the end of the day, you've got somebody running the city for us and the people, and obviously we have significant input into that, but at the end of the day, there's a line there, and if the city manager wants to do something, the city manager is going to do that, and the reality of it is our remedy, albeit a quick remedy, is three of us or more get together and not get together, but in a public meeting, make a decision that we terminate the city manager, and then we go through the process. We pay money to hire a firm, put somebody interim. That's the remedy to correct that.
To that point, looking back at those previous city managers, I think some decisions should have been made along the way that weren't. And you have to have a council that's plugged into what's going on. And for whatever reason, they were not. They just let the process roll with the city manager. And I think what we've done here is we are all engaged in this process with our city manager to ensure that they're on the right track, looking at the right things, trying to move the right projects forward, and trying to hold them accountable. And I think that's what's changed with your tenure.
Yeah,
and,
no, sure.
And I think it's been good. I'm sad that we had a good manager that left, but potentially we have the nucleus to get a new one. Right.
So, and to segue into this conversation, so we talked about Matt. Matt was great. Loved Matt. Worked well with Matt. I'll share a couple things with you, just to and not to downplay Matt, because it's not my intent here, but my engagement obviously has been fairly high, right? I ran on a platform for change, and I hell bent to make that happen, right? Within the structure, and I was called out on a couple things that were not false, were not true, were false. But some of the things that were brought up were so, in those complaints, were so trivial. And I'll use one as example. Was they accused me of interfering with staff, and the one item, which I would think if you're going to include one item that goes to the commission for evidence, that would be the most damning evidence, and that was an email I sent to Ashley during transition to Matt that had city manager copied on it, asking for a public records request to get the salary of the city attorney, I think, over the last year. Simple request, public records request. Ashley's in charge of the public records. Anybody can ask for it, including me. And I'd even go so far as the charter allows a little latitude with the city clerk, with council and mayor, kind of a special employee based on what I read in the charter. So, but that was what it put out there, and so that's what you have too when you're so far removed from staff that you can't even. You feel like if you see a staff member in the street or whatever, you got to turn and walk away, like you can't talk to them out in public, right? For the fear that you're going to be accused of interfering. So that's a real issue. It's there for a purpose to keep staff isolated, and that the city manager is the executive authority on that. But if you swing too far the other way, there's a disconnect there that it's inefficient. And I can tell you, I had to send tons and tons of things through Matt and John while he was here, and Sal while he was interim, that to look into that. I could have left them alone to look in myself and help resolve that. And once I got the information, got back to the resident, and maybe that was something that I need to correct the resident on or whatever. But what happens is and you guys, well, I'm sure you have to go to the city manager, and they have to take time out of their day of running the city to go find these. And I don't want to say trivial, because every problem is not trivial to everybody, but some problems are trivial in the grand scheme of things, right? But every resident wants to know their specific problem is being looked into and resolved in a timely manner. Get them all time, daily, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a day. I don't know the amount of engagement you guys have with residents. Obviously, if you're close to residents, they probably reach out to you, but they always reach out to me. And just to take that step further, Chopper Davis, Mayor Newport Richey, he served on council for 9 years before he became mayor, and he said it is a night and day difference of the amount of traffic that you get come across your email calls and whatnot as a mayor and council member. So there's a difference. People perceive the mayor as, hey, that's the guy at top. That's where I'm gonna get my answers, right? And really, and Chopper, I use his phrase. He uses it all the time. He's a traffic cop that sits in the middle of the road directing traffic. When people come to him, go to city manager, go to city clerk, go to building department, right? He's just pointing people. And that's an approach. That's not an approach people necessarily like. They elect somebody and they reach out to you. They want you to, intercede on their behalf, help get things along. And so the proper channel, obviously, is to take that, forward it on the city manager. Hey, can you look at this for me? It takes time out of his day. He has to go stop doing city business to look into a records request or look into a building issue, get all that information, come back, put it together, get it back out to the council member or mayor and the resident. And sometimes that process is, and most times it is, very inefficient. So that's kind of one of the issues I see, that the people's elected representatives are so far removed from the actual process and are restricted from being able to do good business, that it kind of hurts productivity. And both ways, not only taking productivity out of the city manager's hands, where he can be focused on other things, but he has constantly have to run special projects to find out what's going on with this resident, what's going on with this resident. And a lot of times they reach out and they don't get a timely response because obviously the guy's busy or the gal's busy or whoever's in the seat, right? So they come without problems. But going back to Matt, I can tell you in that year and a half, there's a couple times, and more so towards the mid to end, I remember very distinctly we talked about something. I don't remember what it was, but Matt had said, I think you need to think long and hard if I'm the right guy for the job. And I was taken aback by that. I said, Matt, you are 110% the right guy for the job. Full faith in you. And he said that, I don't know that I am going to be able to get you to where you want to be. And that really bothered me. I kind of took it in stride and constantly reassured him and that, but I feel and I know the weight that's upon the guy sitting in that chair or gal sitting in that chair. And it's immense. And not only do you have to run the city, but you have to field all those complaints coming through the elected body. And so I, s- I see a need that is worth a conversation to see if there's any way that we can, if we do stay council manager, to make things easier on that city manager. They don't have to deal with that. And that may be to open up a little latitude within council's ability to interact with staff. Again, not from a directive perspective, right? But just the ability to engage without fear of somebody taking it the wrong way. And that arrangement would need, staff would need to understand that just because the mayor reaches out to you doesn't mean you drop everything that you're doing because it's the mayor. You roll up to the city manager or your department head, then the city manager, right? But know that going in, and if the council is good meaning and they aren't trying to abuse their power and whatnot, which probably happened in the past, which is why you have these guidelines, these guardrails in place, right? But somehow strike a happy medium there so that we can be as agile as possible and we can free up some of the mundane tasks that we have to push down through the CEO of the city. So that's kind of my overall concern, is how do we fix what we have? And if that means some tweaks here, great. If it means a total overhaul, great. I think we're small enough where other styles lend themselves to work. I think the style we have now can work. It's working. I can tell you, I've been doing it for 2 years. I've had 4 city managers under me, and two interims and 2 full time. And at times it's challenging. Flat out. There's no perfect system.
But the city manager is also directing it to the department heads. What's the difference? He's directing a lot of those things to the department heads too. What's the difference of you telling the police or fire what you're doing? He's going to be doing the same thing.
I agree with that too, because an effective CEO, which is essentially what he is going to leverage on his staff. And if his staff isn't ability to do that, then that's a management issue that needs to be addressed at the core of the problem. So if he doesn't have good managers being able to take on responsibility and to delegate, I mean, everything can't land on his shoulders.
And a lot of the
that's
stuff,
the point.
a lot of stuff, the city manager has the background for. We don't on a lot of those things.
Yeah.
All we can do, you surround yourself by people that know more than you do. That's the whole point of the whole thing. That's why you have department heads. They know what they're doing. He knows how to run the police department. Fire knows how to run the fire. That's how it works. So council members don't necessarily have those skills
You're
anymore.
creating multiple bosses.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a citizen talk about the storm drain not draining right and talk to Andy about it. Andy's on top of it with Sal. Just Sal, take care of this. And then they talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Well, then you go, I need to get a hold of Daryl. Well, Daryl's already on it. And now look, he's got 2 bosses. You're telling him one thing and Sal telling him something else. So he's the organization. He knows what's going on with the city all the time. Now, I know that it does get overbearing sometimes. That's why you delegate, like she said. At least he knows he's got Andy, he's got somebody working on it. He's got Daryl working on it, or he's got the chief working on it, or whatever's going on. He knows. So when you go to him, well, yeah, I've already talked to him about that issue. Done. If you go and try to take care of the issue, or if I go and talk to Sal, what the hell's going on with this storm drain over his customers? Well, the mayor's already got with me on it. Andy's already got with me. What are you doing? Because that's what citizens do. They reach out constantly until they find that person right then to get that instant satisfaction. And then you have a bigger problem if you have us jumping in the middle of an operation.
Yeah.
So I can understand the frustration and what you're talking about, but this is why we went to a council, because it eliminates a lot of that and actually makes it better. People have to have patience. That's just the way it is. We have policies, we have procedures. And if we don't have a city manager who understands that and does it the way we want it to do, we'll get another one.
Right.
It will ask for someone to get resigned, or we want your resignation or something like that. But it needs to be handled. And I think Andy's got the experience to do it. And we need to hire someone while he's here to fill in when he goes back to his retirement, to his farm, that will satisfy our needs to get done. And as far as retainment, I'm looking at a performance pay scale to keep people here, because we are like a stepping stone and a resume filler. And that's what we need to eliminate. And then eliminate that, we need to have a performance pay scale for a city manager that gives him the incentive to do his job the way we want it and to get paid for doing that job the way we want it, so we retain those people. And that's, I see, that solves a lot of solutions. But I understand what you're saying, but it's organized right now. We can't let it get unorganized, but let other people, you jumping in the middle or me jumping in the middle of an operation, that just creates more of a problem, and that causes staff to get frustrated, and then you're going to lose staff. We don't want to do that either.
I'm gonna let her talk to Susie, finish up here. So,
Linda Rodriguez, 5917 Lantern Court.
Well,
I agree with you, Bob. You're 100% correct. The reason I came up here was when I first went on council, I met with John Dute, and one of the first things he said to me was, if you have a problem, you have something to do, come to me first and I'll direct it. He said, because I don't want you, if I come to him with a problem, the grass needs mowed in the circle in my little subdivision. Those utility guys are going to put that number one because a council person asked them to do that, even though it's not a number one priority. Maybe they do have storm drains that they're working on, but because a council person asked them, they're going to change their priority list to accommodate that. And I don't know what their priority list is. The council doesn't know what their priority list is. Only that director does. So I totally agree that it should go through one person, the council, the city manager. Go to the city manager, and I went many times and said, hey, I need this done or that done. No problem, I'll let them know. And if it didn't get done, I followed up with the city manager because he also has a list of priorities that needs to be done. The priority list changes on a minutely basis when you're in that role, when you're the CEO of a big city. That's not a stagnant priority goal. That changes, and only he or she can adjust that priority goal, not council. Council needs to go to the person, and that person needs to disseminate it. If that person doesn't do their job, then the council's job is to fire them. That's it, or take other actions to do that.
twisted.
So there is an avenue to do that if the city manager does not do his job. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. So let me reiterate, because maybe I wasn't taking out of context. When I had that conversation, I'm not advocating that we make a change that the council mayor can go and interfere, right? And let me give you a real example. Somebody reaches out about their specific issue. Richard, what's the guy over in Maria Palms? Richard Shepard. Okay, public record stuff. So Richard Shepard has a drainage problem over there. He's engaged with the city off and on, and he's got nowhere. Reached out to me, or got to me,
And me, and you, and
That's
you,
even a great example.
and
Right.
you.
Yeah, matter of fact, I don't know if he reached out to me directly. I became aware of it. But anyway, so that's an example that, we're not to go and say, hey, Daryl, go look at this. But we could go and say, hey, Daryl, I got this complaint from Richard Shepard. What's going on with that? Do you have any knowledge of that? And he does the same thing. Now, realistically, I could say, Andy, can you check with Daryl? See what's going on with Shepard. He goes over there, does it, takes time out of his day, gets the information, comes back. Here it is, Mayor. Got you. Great. Thanks. Okay. So by me or you or anybody else going directly to Daryl, just getting the information gathering. I'm not talking about, hey, stop everything you're doing and mow this ditch, mow this thing. Totally off topic, right?
That's the city manager's job.
That's his job. That's right.
It's not our job. It's not the mayor's job. It's the city
No,
manager's job.
That's what I'm saying.
respectfully disagree with where you're going with this because I don't believe that when a complaint comes in, our direct course needs to go directly to him. It's up to the city manager to determine who is responsible in that organization this organization to addressing it. And the point that that individual who sent us all letters, which is great, I don't have a problem with that. But the point is that guy needs to be heard, and hearing each of us and responding to the city manager and say, okay, get something going on this. Let's figure it out. And let's get a recourse. So he needs to resolve it. He doesn't need to work on it specifically, but there again, being the time, you need to, one, be aware of the issues circulating the city, and two, you need to have responsible managers to be able to address those issues with that expertise. And three, each of those department managers need to be knowledgeable about their organization. And if they're not capable of handling things like this, then we have deeper issues. We need to address the organization and ensure that we've got one, responsible people that follow up, people that can get the job done, people that can assess the situation and provide solutions rather than just rhetoric. Okay.
Well, I also think that it would be a good idea, like his feedback on this. If I go to Andy with a problem, I know a citizen's been having a problem and is having a hard time getting permits or whatever the problem is, and Andy will say, well, I already talked to so-and-so about this. Can you go help me address that? And maybe I can go talk to the customer with Daryl or whoever's working on it, or Sal. So Andy can keep doing his job, but Andy knows, and now I know what's going on and who to contact. So he knows that I'm helping that person. So he doesn't have to run over to do it. I can run over as long as he knows what's going on. Maybe we could do something like that.
Yeah, no.
We talk to him first, so because he
Yeah, so
what's going on.
I'm gonna pull up another example just to drive the point home. There's information gathering, and obviously any action comes through the city manager's office. That's the way it's supposed to work. Right now, all the information gathering, all the action comes to the city manager's office. So if there was a tweak, and I don't know how we would draft it in a way to protect that relationship with the city manager and staff, but still give us the ability to. And I'm going to be honest with you, the charter does not prevent us, that I read, correct me if I'm wrong, from talking to staff. It prevents us from interfering with staff. Now, if I go in Ashley's office and I kick back and I just talk all day, that's interfering with her duties, right? But if I reach out to Ashley and say, hey, can you let me know what's going on with Chris Mayer's property down there? And she tells me, I don't think that violates the charter.
I don't think your charter has a specific non-interference clause. Your charter, there are some charters and codes you'll read that specifically say, do not do ABC. Yours does not go that far. Right. So yes, yours is more open for interpretation. Mm-hmm. Best course of action is, of course, not interfering with staff, right? Okay. Don't interfere with them. That's what your city manager is for.
Right. Interferes
yes. Can you say hi on the street? Of course you can. Can you go in and visit until she kicks you out? Of course you can. But the idea is information gathering, obviously directives of any kind flow from you, the city manager, he directs staff.
But as council, we are permitted to talk to staff just to gather information so that we can make good decisions.
Best course would be to go through your city manager for that information.
And so this is
that wasn't my question.
No, I'm not answering. The best course is to go to the city manager to get that information, because you might not consider interference. The person seeing it might consider interference, and you have an ethics complaint.
Exactly.
You want to answer that? No. I mean, you may. You don't want. I mean, that's what you want to avoid. So the best course. That's what I'm saying. What you can do by the words that are written in the code, and how you work within that can be two different things. So your best course of action is to do what you've been doing, which would be to go to the city manager. So there's no misunderstanding. There's no misinterpretation, because you cannot interfere. And what is that line?
So I think
your line might look different than someone else. That's what you want to do.
And so my point here is that if we were to tweak something, we would actually define what interfering is, right? That would be one approach. That would give us specific things of what we can and cannot do, as opposed to just some broad "don't interfere." Because You know, if I call Daryl, say I'm driving down Bay and I see utilities doing something in front of there, and I reach out to Daryl and say, hey, what's going on at the apartments? And he says, oh, water main break. Okay, cool. Keep up the good work. Okay. Did I interfere? Technically, no, right? But could it be construed as interfering? Sure. He had to take time to answer his phone call, and so it's stuff like that.
But like you said, I mean, and I've been quiet for a reason. I'm trying to get
Take it all in, sure.
temperature in the room. You are not the average mayor that I've seen in this city before. Okay, you are highly engaged. You're highly intelligent. Okay, so your responses are calculated, to say the least. In almost every situation that you can be encountered and or comment on. Thank you for that. So I can see why this is coming up. This question's coming up here. I struggle with the fact that we've been through city manager up to city manager up to city manager. I also understand when the folks from this board and also from the consumers in the community, they get a fear of, well, what if the wrong person sits in that seat? I have the same fear.
I have the same fear.
So I think that talking about this is valid, and I think that us running through scenarios is valid, so we all understand what everybody's fear is about. And at least we vet it and get it down to a point where we say, you know what, maybe we don't have a problem, maybe we do, and if we don't talk about it, we won't know. So I commend you for at least talking about it and getting it out there. And I think it's important for us as a council to keep an open mind when we go through these things, just to understand there could be another way. And just because somebody else doesn't do it that way doesn't mean we shouldn't think about doing it that way.
And so you bring up very valid points. And I want to clarify too, it's not about me, right? Because I'm not going to sit here forever. And I may not sit here past April, right? I'm on the ballot in April. And so whatever we do and the citizens decide to put in place, that's a living document that has to be, you can't flip-flop back and forth, right? Now, I have thoughts I'd like to ask questions because I think there's interesting potential and some changes to where you could be somewhat flexible in that when you do have a person sitting here that maybe is more qualified than city manager, I'm going to hire. I'm not saying that's me, but there's not to say that there's not somebody. Let's say Matt moved back to the city and all of a sudden he runs for mayor. He's quite capable of running the city. He ran it, right? And so let's just use that as a hypothetical, right? Let's say Matt moves back to the city and 10 years down the road he runs for mayor and has operated as a city manager. Wouldn't he be better served to operate in a strong mayor scenario? Well, he's actually the closest to the people, so he has the direct accountability.
Never happened.
Huh?
Never happened. It's a scenario that would never happen.
It's a
And-
hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical, but it would never happen.
That's
And-
always used as a hypothetical.
And if you move back in 10 years, he might want to be city manager, which
Yeah.
he did an excellent
He
job
wouldn't
at.
run for mayor. He'd come for this job.
Well, let's not. Again, I'm not putting hypotheticals out there that.
Well, you're making things up, we can too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, live in fantasy land. I don't live in
Well,
fantasy
I guess what I'm
land.
saying, I'm trying to use a very specific example that we're familiar with as a hypothetical. My real point is that let's say somebody's in place, and I'll be honest with you. Can I run the city? 100%. I'm doing it now pretty much. Anyway, the only thing that I don't do is execute. I've built a team up here. And listen to me. I'm going to be honest with you. I built a team up here because when I got elected, I realized very, very quickly that I was going nowhere. Nothing that I had promised the people was going to happen. And that's a shame because the people put people in these positions to accomplish their agendas, not agendas, to accomplish their wants, needs, desires, visions, right? And some probably do have personal agendas or whatever, but as a collective. So what people don't understand is each individual vote does not represent the whole. Everybody gets representation. So the people sitting up here are not just incumbent to represent those that support them, but also those that don't support them.
So what we need to do is go out and look at these resumes and hire a city manager make him move into the city and then we can push him to run for mayor. Is that what we're saying?
No, not at all.
Because you don't qualify, and neither does anybody here at
Okay,
this
well,
table qualify.
I-
That's the bottom line. We need someone that really
Again,
qualifies.
this is not-
with
this is
years
about-
of training.
Yeah,
And,
Bob, this is not about me.
okay,
All
well,
I'm saying is that am I capable? Yes. Do I have I was an IT guy, right? You know what? Never was involved in politics until I was elected mayor. Other than a short period of time, I ran for council and lost. Spent some time on the CAC committee, and then I ran for mayor and was elected. Never before did I have a qualification to be mayor. Zero, unless you count when I went to Boise State when I was in high school and spent a week there for that exercise. But outside of that, I never even came to a council meeting. Farthest thing from my mind, I voted, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't vote a whole lot in my younger years, but more so now. But I never had that experience before, and I believe, that I'm doing a pretty good job. Am I perfect? No, nobody is, right? But my point being is there's things that people have capabilities, they have aptitude to be able to do things that they don't necessarily have done before. Nobody's born a city manager. Nobody's born a mayor. Nobody's born an IT resource. Nobody's born a captain. You go, right? And realistically, being a small city, not paying the greatest, we're going to have to either compete with these bigger cities and pay bigger salaries to get those people that have those qualifications, or we're going to have to let somebody cut their teeth in here. And he's not a city manager, right? He hit the county administrator from Cincinnati County, but never been a city manager, correct? Doesn't have the certificate. I'm not trying to downplay you. You're doing a great job. That's not my point. My point is that can somebody come in here without the accolades and all that and do a great job? You absolutely can, right? And he's proof of that. So again, I'm not advocating for a job here. It's not what I'm doing, because my fear is when I step away, that somebody sits in a seat that is as competent as I am and able to get things done and does it by the letter of the law, respectfully, and has that communication and all the positive things that they need to do, not some person that comes in here and just destroys things. So I'm not in favor per se of change to a strong mayor city government. It could literally destroy the city if you get the wrong person in the seat. You don't have the wrong person in the seat now. I think I've evidenced that. Okay, when I first took office, lots of people think I'm out here to destroy the city. They told Matt Cobbler, almost every person I sat on that council, concerned about me, that I had an agenda, I was out to destroy the city. Okay, from Matt's mouth, and Matt's response to them was simply this: well, if that's his agenda, he's going about it all the wrong way. So I've gotten past that, right? And so all I'm looking for here is a conversation. Open your mind, see if there's anything we want to change. We don't have to change a darn thing. We can just roll with it. Next Tuesday, we can spend $30,000 to a firm, have them go out and search.
well, we're talking about Andy's job. I'd like to hear what Andy has to say about it.
I think the council manager style of government that is in place here, and it's the vast majority of places for cities this size and bigger and smaller, I think is optimal. So to work with that system, I think Councilman Hubbard, I think you said it a few minutes ago. What's so important is policies and procedures and implementing them and following them, so that the entity is here long after, like you said, you won't be in that seat forever. None of us will. So it's like the rule of law is the most important thing. It's more important than any lawmaker or any man of the moment. So tomorrow I'm here a month, and I haven't even finished reading all the existing policies. So I haven't been able to update them either or modernize them. Our personnel manual is 31 years old. And so that's one of the first things I asked for. I was told it was in review, and so now it's on my desk to review. And then I'll plan on a workshop so that the council can review it and then we'll implement it. But that's just one example of things that need to be in place and implemented so that again, if I'm hit by a bus tomorrow, somebody else can do the job by just following those rules. In practical terms, let's use email for an example. If there's an issue, instead of sending it to Daryl because you know Daryl's the action officer, we're small enough that even a new council person knows pretty quickly who does what, even if they're new to it. We don't have a cast of hundreds, so you already know who to CC. All I would ask for that example is you send it to me and CC Daryl. That way, if I'm slower, I'm in a meeting and or I'm asleep, or I'm slower to get to my email because of other things, Daryl might see it and he knows that it's important. He knows a water main break's important, not wondering where it might lie on my priority list. So, but the more you can send things to me, then I can set those priorities. If I end up with a history of not setting the priorities to your liking, well, then hopefully you would counsel me or ask for my resignation. So I don't know if that's enough out of me, but my thoughts are everybody has that motivation of we know we're all just passing through. We'd like to leave things better than we found it. And I think the key is following the set of rules in place that they carry on no matter who's in what seat.
Yeah.
I think you've hit on the head on that. If we channel information directly to you and copy the individual that we think is, like a building issue or utility issue or finance issue, what I do think it helps you and your team manage the situation.
Right.
And everybody's, the right people are aware at the same time.
If you put it to them and CC me, it might look like directing and ordering.
Right.
And
my expectation would not be for them to drop their job as a form of awareness to help you do your job, as opposed to that. But I think that would be a change that would probably be perceived as helping the organization get the problems addressed quickly rather than interfering, which is where we don't want it, right?
And I know there's fine lines that everybody has to use their judgment, but I think the staff, knowing the council members, you're not mysterious and detached or anything like that. I think the conversations, the social interactions, when somebody's getting an award or a longevity pin or something like that, the more you guys do know them and know who does what, again, they're a backstop for me. If I'm slower to get to it, they get a running start. So I think it's good to discuss it. I think it's always good to make sure things are optimal, but I think we have the good bones here. I think we're in the right form of government, and I'm hoping a lot of this is based on historical. This isn't prompted by disappointment in me in my first month.
No, absolutely not.
But more. But it's good for me. I'm taking it all in, so I can make sure that I'm as responsive as you need me to be.
Yeah. And let me you've been great for the short time you've been here. I've not had any issues. Again, I send you stuff 2:00 in the morning sometimes. I don't expect you to answer it then, obviously, but as it comes in,
I haven't wondered when you sleep, sir. I will double down my efforts to try to be responsive. I've still been getting my sea legs under me here. Trying to get it running, start reading everything, the city charter, and being knowledgeable. Before I change something, I want to know what the baseline is. So.
I've got an email pulled up that I wanted to get to. Here's another example. So David Funk reached out, and I'll go ahead and read it for the record. Good evening. My name is David Funk. I've recently purchased a property about 6 months ago in Port Richey that was damaged by a hurricane and have found tremendous difficulty and pushback with the building permits department in obtaining a permit, as they are trying very hard to get me to knock the building down. I was wondering if you can please help me save this home. The house was assessed well under the 50% value. However, the lady in the office is giving us a very difficult time, and I'm not sure what other recourse to take. Please give me a call. My phone number is 813-843-7492. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you for all that you do. Prayer hands. The city of Port Richey is in the process of moving to a new email address. That's our thing in there. So this was they went to the website and they used the online drop an email to the mayor. Okay. That came at 9:30. I had responded back to him later today about 1:06 in the morning. And he actually responded back at 1:24 and said the address. I need the address, 5200 Mallet Drive. And then I believe
You sent it to
I
me.
sent that on to Andy at 1:52, saying, "Hi Andrew, Mr. Funk reached out about his property, 5200 Mallet Drive. Please freeze mesh below. Can you follow up with the building department and find out what the issue is and get it corrected?" And then he responded back, "Will do." Is that will? You know, let's say Wilco. Is it?
Will Coast stands for will comply.
Okay, we'll comply. Okay, I was wondering what that meant. See, learn something new every day. I thought you spelled "will do" wrong.
The term we used back in the 50s.
Yeah, I never heard that.
It's a military
That's
term.
what I was
Yep.
thinking.
Roger, look up.
Will comply. I like that. Okay, and so then at 3:45 on Monday, I got email back from Andy Mayor. This E-Trail Delance issue still. So I'm assuming what happened is when
I spoke to you in person. I was halfway through the
Right.
email because I had gotten with Veronica and she got all the who shot John information
right.
and figured it out.
Why did it take so 9 months for the guy to respond to you?
It was a sale of the house, if I remember properly.
Yeah. So
Your email was on June 29th to you. Why did it take so long to get?
this is when he sent to me. So I don't.
But the point is we had a hurricane 9 months ago. What are these people doing? What are we communicating as a city so that they're unaware that they need to get things going here?
Well, let's not cloud. Again, there's details.
There's
on this,
other
right?
issues.
Right.
He bought the house from somebody else. Now he's a new homeowner.
Right.
He's not the one who got flooded. He's a new homeowner, and he bought under 50%. So
Right.
now he's moving forward, thinking he can get it done. And from his response there, which is may or may not be what's going on,
Right.
he's having to push back from the building department. So he's reaching out to the mayor for some, and he didn't hit all 4 or 5 of us. He just hit the mayor.
Gotcha.
Happens all the time.
If it was assessed at over 60%, you can't go in and change it after it's been purchased. You'll get sued.
All right, well, let's not get bogged down in the details of this specific case. Just that there's a case there that's had some issues with the city.
Right.
I don't know what they are, right? I haven't been engaged.
All right.
But he obviously has some issues with getting people to respond back to him. And so,
and Andy seems to be working on it.
and he didn't. So I pushed it to Andy,
Yeah.
which is what I do.
Yep.
And then Andy
I got
pushed it.
I got with the
Likewise.
building
If,
department
if,
director.
if you had to say how much time did you have to put into this particular one?
I read it. If I finished the email, but I got interrupted. But then you came in, and so I kind of got you up in person. 2 minutes, and it's not interrupting my day. That is my job.
Right.
But if other people are tasking my employees, and I don't know about it, that's why I don't want to ever hold things up. So if I'm in the spoke, the head of the hub of the wheel, and the communication always has to go through me, that's a little shorter than going on the arc around the wheel. So that's why I think CCing, if you're doing the business by email, is a great tactic.
You just hit on an important point. You were responding to the email, and then the mayor came in and talked about the issue on the email that you
He came
just
in about
sent.
something else, and I said, "Oh, Mayor,
He was in the
I'll
process.
respond to you."
Okay.
Because what I had done is, as soon as I saw the email from the mayor forwarding Mr. Funk, I got with Veronica. She got with her staff. They came up with a list of things that they had done, and it turned out it wasn't the building department holding things up. The contractor had not done a requirement that the building department had said they needed to do next. I forwarded that to the mayor so he could respond to his citizen, and I think he wrote back, "Thanks so much for the info." Now that gentleman knows to go to his contractor and urge him to come in and do whatever's next. Am I right, Veronica? Do I have that about right? So that was an example, I think, Mayor, of the system working. And if you had CC'd Veronica because you knew I was going to go to her next anyway, and if I'm out or at lunch or in a meeting or something, it gives her a running start. It's a good backup.
I actually like
I have no problem with that. I don't want to go. You don't talk to her.
I actually like that idea because what it does, exactly, it makes your staff aware of the same issues that we're making you aware of.
But they're not doing it in a vacuum.
No.
So I go, where's Veronica? I need her doing this. And she's up in this.
Right. And,
Right.
and it allows our staff to be proactive on the problems of the city. And this brings out another thing. I had a manager or director one time, and he'd have an issue, and he'd go to first guy in the line. And he didn't respond, he'd go to the second one. and then you go to the third one. And pretty soon we're all working on the same problem and we're not accomplishing anything because that's not the way it works. So by channeling things through Andy and copying his staff, it'll, to the right degree that we're aware, you know, it could be a building issue, it could be a finance issue or police, whatever.
And I think if you limit it, sir, to the
Right.
director that you know
Yes,
is
the department
not
leads.
going down to the guy that's
Yeah.
actually turning the wrench.
Exactly.
But the director, it's a good backstop.
And it's up to Andy to determine if he's overwhelmed. And if he is, he'll let us know.
Yeah,
It's not
he
for us to
should,
determine.
he should be copied on everything. But
No, he should be sent everything and the staff copy. I
You know
think
what?
that's
We'll
that
say that.
policy
You
that
know
we
what?
want to look at. Yeah.
If you know what department or departments will
Right.
be affected by it, and you put them in the CC line, I think that email etiquette, it's more than just etiquette. It's really enforcing our process,
All right.
and,
And I
enforce and validating the chain of command.
Right, and I think that's a good, if you will, to use your example, policy change that might help facilitate getting things accomplished in a quicker manner.
And I think it's, we have nothing to hide. We're as sunshine as we can be. So things that are in writing, on email, it's just easier than doing a group phone call or doing 5 phone calls. So it is kind of the matter of record now. And so I think doing it right, doing email correctly is very helpful. So that's a great example.
yeah, no, and that
how we
was,
want to do business.
there was a couple ways I was going to say that you could do that, right? If at a bare minimum, if we could copy the department head,
Yeah.
right? So if when I sent this addressed to you and it's copied Veronica, she would have been aware of it. She'd know you're going to come asking for it or whatever, and she could have got the information together.
You
And
go, this is either Veronica or the building official. I'm not sure which, but them both, and they'll know because they're the experts in their field. So
and so the other side of that as well that might work, and maybe it's too far. I will say that it's been a practice not to copy staff on emails. Okay, we don't do that. We just you talk direct to the city manager. Matter of fact, I've had emails come in. I had to respond back, and I had to delete staff from the email. And I don't like that because it takes because they were copied on the original. Let's give an example.
Well,
Somebody
the
sent me
reality is, can't we just move forward with that and make the decision and move on with it? I mean, we're just beating a dead horse. Although I like to make them ride again. But
Well, no. I think
some context behind what we're talking about is valid, right?
I think
before you jump to solutions, we want to.
just jump over it and say, well, that's
So what I'm saying is that in the past, like I said, a lot of times email will come in to me. They don't just send it directly to me. They copy Veronica. They copy the city manager. They copy all this. So when I respond, I would have to basically delete staff and take them out of the conversation. Well, it's like good practice, right? Because it's not the mayor communicating with staff, right? And if they're copied, then you're indirectly communicating with staff. And so that's where this
I got a question.
Interference.
While you're explaining this. Forgive me. So let's just say a resident CCs all of us, and we respond. Is that sunshine?
yes,
Okay, so that's something we need to be aware
definitely
of
take out council
wait a
members.
minute. We respond to everybody in that.
in the group.
Only the council members would be.
CC, respond all, reply all.
That would be a sunshine law violation with council.
That's what I'm trying to
Right.
clarify. This is why we talk about it.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were telling me to turn my mic on.
No.
Chris, I keep cursing. Chris.
And again, just
I go to sleep. I was like, Chris.
just to be technically correct too. So let's say an email comes out. A couple things, because sunshine law gets cloudy. Well, no, it's very clear, right? But there's best practices to avoid getting yourself in trouble. Technically, I could broadcast an information email to you all. If that's where it stops, that's not a violation of sunshine law. Okay, it's not great practice because what happens? Chris responds back and says, "Hey, I like that. Sunshine law has been violated."
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's why you just
Avoid it.
you don't copy anybody for this, basically to keep you from breaking
Get yourself
sunshine
in
law.
the habit.
Based on what Andy's saying, if a resident response comes to us and says, "Hey, I got a problem with this," and you're like, you know, that has to do with the police department, whoever it is, you CC, or you send it to Andy, their complaint to Andy, CC the chief, right? And then all of a sudden we're on the same page, right?
And sir, if I could, I think what I would prefer is you reply to the resident, I'm on it, we'll look into it, whatever. But when you forward it, you take the citizen off because they don't
need to see
they don't
internal.
need to see all the internal iterations,
Internal dialogue.
Right. Take
not
take
that we
away
don't need
about
to
all the
hide it.
They can request it and see it.
They might eventually see the whole trail later when the answer is done. They can do freedom of information. I just want to spare them being, as we ask questions of each other, they're interjecting. It might be confusing.
And that would be something Andy would know what to do with when that arose.
So I don't know how we can, that's probably just procedure. I don't know if it requires charter change.
That's not in your charter. I think that is a city manager preference.
And I would,
Policy.
and I would
It's his
brief all
policy.
my directors and the staff, just what we talked. I think probably a lot of them are listening. They're interested in what's going on today. But I'll reiterate that it's a courtesy to be CC'd, the directors, but not to misconstrue that the council's interfering or anything like that. I think if anything, it'll speed things up on occasion.
Yeah.
And help everybody have situational awareness.
And staff should know that if they're CC'd, so if I sent an email right now to you saying, check on this, and I copy Veronica because of the building issue or whatever, that does not mean, oh, the mayor just sent this in. I drop everything I do and find this out.
That's right.
Okay.
We'll
That's not,
reiterate.
you're aware of it. You're aware that I got an incoming thing, or anybody else up here, right? But that gives you, when you do have some free time and you can adjust your schedule accordingly based on a city manager, that you're a step ahead of that and you're aware of it and you're not blindsided. And that probably saves some time. And that's more efficient. And I like that.
And
I think
be
that's a
aware
positive change.
That the city manager sets the priority.
Right.
Right.
He can
That's what I'm
decide.
saying. They
He sets
need to
the
know
priority.
that just
Yeah.
because an email originated from me or you or anybody else that they're copied on, that's not to be construed as them drop everything and do it and act. That's not a
If we
direct.
see a problem, like we've been talking about, and he doesn't want to do something about it, then we'll have to say, well, we need to do something about this. But he's suggesting this, and that solves that problem.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be.
And that's,
If I can, a side benefit to that is too, I mean, I view every director as if they want to be a future city manager. So you're involving them and they see how we're setting priorities, how I'm getting guidance from the mayor and the council. So I consider that part of my job is to make sure I'm training every director for their next level that they may want to pursue. So they start getting a glimpse of interactions with the council.
Another thing that I've heard from the frog on the wall is that we've got pretty good standing with our neighbors and communities around us. We're getting pats on the back over moving the city forward and setting good guidelines and being good custodians of the taxpayers' money and all that kind of stuff. And that's helped us out a lot lately. Now, how many people did you tell about what happened? You called me last night. How many people did you tell that to?
about the
Yeah.
Appropriations.
okay. So let me
We went to Tallahassee, you
Yeah.
and I and Mike
well,
and Matt.
before we get too far into that, I called each one of the council members to let them know that the budget was signed and that we did get our full $4.3 million. That was the extent of the conversation. Okay, that is not a violation of sunshine law. All right, not the best practice,
Not a best practice.
but that's not something that's going to come from us a vote. It's a done deal. Governor signed it. It's just information. Okay, we didn't discuss it, so
Right.
be careful when you say I called to talk to, because it was a very succinct conversation. That was just it, just
Well,
to
we
give you
did-
courtessy.
We did discuss it at the point in time and said, we're gonna move forward on those items and we're gonna try to
Right.
get that information, and that was the consensus.
It's not something coming up.
And it's basically a factual determination of what was signed in the budget. It was just a communication of information.
So just a level
Right.
set, full transparency,
Well, I just
because I can see. I
wanted to
heard
take
Bob
this.
say that the mayor called him and talked to him. So
I just think a lot of that. I want to thank Mike Moore for putting that together. And Matt Koppler helping him, and of course we going up there and actually showing up to do due diligence for this, because of the way the city's set up and with the council people we have sitting here help that happen. From what I heard, so it makes a difference,
it's a team effort for sure.
and that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and so let me just drive that home because a very short time ago, and you all remember this, that very different conversations, they were going to dissolve the city. And in that short period of time, now they're giving us $4.3 million to invest in the city. That is a huge turnaround.
And
Exactly.
We've
Okay.
never asked for that, any appropriations from the state ever. We engaged with a lobbyist per your conversations with
Learning
some of
process.
the external meetings that you've been to, and you've actually encouraged us to be more participatory with these other organizations around us, the Florida League of Cities, Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council,
Mayors. Yeah.
yeah, all this stuff. And I think what you brought to the table has really paid off in spades. Really, we have knocked it out of the park.
You've
No.
done a really,
And
you've done a really
your
great job as
leadership,
mayor.
Eric, has facilitated that. And to me, this is what a mayor should be doing for our city, to be out there, the front guy, the front man or woman for bringing projects into the city and championing those events, and having a strong city manager in the background being able to implement those efforts. And I think what we've got is a winning team here. Really.
Yeah. And I wanted to say that is the ideal. I want to continue to do the things that I do, building those relationships. And if I'm holed up in the city manager's office running the city, something's going to take back. See, I think Linda may post something about that. There's a lot of things that I'm doing now that if I'm doing all this other stuff as well, or whoever's sitting here, you can only do so much, right? So, like I said before, I'm not advocating for a strong mayor. I don't necessarily want to spend my time running the city at that capacity. I'd much rather sit up with you all, great policy. But again, my fear is that are we going to be able to find somebody to keep? Because we've got huge potential here. We've got lots of stuff. We just got $4.3 million to do these infrastructure projects and all. We've got to have the execution.
Well, let's
piece.
address that now then. I'd like to talk to Nancy and Andy about a pay scale, a performance pay scale possibly, that will help keep someone here, someone that's got the energy they'll make us all look good.
And so
That's what we want. Someone to make us look good.
And so I wanted to give you some more data to digest. So Dade City right now is looking for a city manager. They've been looking for a city manager. They fired their city manager. They went through a hiring process, and I don't remember what their salary range was, but they got a pool of candidates, and they didn't select any of them. Okay. They just recently went back to the well. They've upped their salary range to 180 at the top end, and I think they've got some candidates that came in that are in process that they're going to interview. So they had to bump the salary scale quite a bit to get higher quality candidates. So that is an example. We could probably expect that to do the same thing, right? Here's the problem: I'm going to use Matt another example because I was constantly on Matt. You need to get your evaluation to the council. It's time, right? We need to. I'd like to look at your pay because we're paying Matt 130. What enough, right? And I wanted to give him 10 grand right off the bat, just give him to 140 because 130 was not enough for what he was. And he was actually really doing good work, right? And so I wanted to reward him, and I wanted the council to be able to opine on that and reward him. And what Matt said was, I appreciate that. He said I couldn't take that because I can't create that much disparity between city manager pay and staff pay. Very valid point. You can't pay a guy $200,000 a year and underpay your staff. So that's the problem that we have with attracting that talent, because we get such a disparity between the top end and the low end. It's inequitable. And if you have the CEO of the city making big bang, right, and staff's underpaid, and we don't have the ability to adjust that, staff is going to be resentful. Staff is going to say, what the heck? We're the actual ones doing the work in their eyes, right? This guy's just at the top, pointing people, telling them what to do. So that's what's hard about setting that salary without looking at it as a whole. But you're right, performance-based pay across the board should be.
Well, it should be. And I think to be honest, we've got great people that deserve to get raises. And
We need to pay staff more.
I think we are a little heavy in the office as far as staff too.
But again, I don't, without being that intimately involved, I wouldn't know. But I mean, is there room for efficiencies? Probably. But bottom line, pay is an issue across the board, not just in city managers.
Well, using Matt as an example, Matt was a working manager. I don't believe the previous managers were working managers. They were just people pulling switches, directing traffic, and driving the issues right back to staff. Now, I don't necessarily disagree. There needs to be some kind of balance, but Matt took on a lot of responsibility himself, and you're right. I think he probably should have been.
Go ahead, Chris.
But
You can't pay the wrong guy enough. You know what I'm saying? The wrong guy, more pay doesn't make him the right guy. Okay? And when you have the right guy, there really is no max. Because if he's the right guy, he's going to do the same job whether you pay him this much or you pay him this much. He doesn't have the ability to do better because you're paying more. It doesn't work that way. People either do the job. It's like playing a game of basketball. Are you going to turn up the heat to make the baskets because it's dropping another $2 million a year on you? No.
Yep.
No, that guy's going to shoot the same baskets at $1 million a year. He's going to shoot $30 million a year. He's going to shoot the same baskets because that's what he's built for. So, and I'm not advocating not paying the right people enough money. I think you pay the right people enough money. But like I said, you can't just take the wrong person and pay them more and expect them to do better.
I can understand and agree what Matt said to a degree, but like Chris said, in your industry or any industry, the hospital industry, you got surgeons who are going to make more money than a nurse. The nurse is like, well, I want to get paid. I want to get paid more money. Well, go to college for 8 years and pay for that and get that education to do that. It's the same thing here. The city managers, we're looking at people that's put a lot of money into college education as well as experience, and it's a learning curve every day they work. You're learning something every day. Yes.
I got an example for us. You know, on a national level, I was the vice president of the NIDA. We lost our CEO. The guy flaked out, went away, and we had to go find one. And they picked somebody who was a deal, and they picked him and brought him in. That guy failed miserably, you know. And then when he failed, I'm like, this person up here, and they all said, "Oh my gosh, are you getting him? He's a $500,000 a year kind of stuff." And I said, if we don't get him, the whole thing's going to go down. So we got that guy. Within 2 years, he turned us around. Our budget turned around. We just had the most successful convention in history. You got to pay the right guy the right amount of money. And I say the right guy. When you get the right guy, you can't say, "Oh, that's above our budget," because our budget is our budget because we got the wrong people in there. You got to get the right people in there so you get the right money.
Well, how do car salesmen get paid on performance?
That's not true. Car salesmen right now are not across the board are not necessarily based on performance. They have quotas they're supposed to make, but the majority of the people have gone to salaries, and because that performance is going to run at a certain amount, no matter what you pay them. You know, you can't burn people. It's not like the old days where you paid a guy, $500 a car.
There's a lot of skating going on in the old
What's that?
days. A lot of skating going on in the old days.
It created a lot of animosity in the
A lot
dealership,
of
fights,
companies
all kinds of crazy stuff.
A lot of companies split up tips too, instead of that people get hammered. But then you have like I said in hospitals, surgeons in there, and he's working 7 days a week is going to get paid more than a surgeon working 4 days a week.
It depends on what he does. Depends on what he's pulling out or putting in. So
that too.
Yeah.
So you have the right guy. We start him out, but if we like what you're doing in a year, we're going to give you $5,000 more every year for 5 years or 4 years or however. Something like that. So he knows that he's going to make more money as long as he does his job. If he agrees to that, and that's something I don't know how Andy feels about.
Is that a thing? Staggered salaries? I suppose it could be, right?
I brought this up before, Bob. I'm sorry. Is you? Go ahead.
I did. I was asking.
Is there something called golden handcuffs? Because in the car business, we have golden handcuffs. You pay somebody like his salary is $150,000 a year, but every year we're going to put away $10,000 in a make-believe account somewhere. So after 3 years, he's got $30,000 sitting there. It's his money, but he's got to stay.
It's called FRS.
To get it. Okay, we call it golden handcuffs. And I mean, I've got key people that have $100,000 sitting there. They leave, somebody goes to steal them from us. They're going to have to drop $100,000 on them to get them away, and it makes them not leave. So
FRS is
okay, that's
FRS
different.
portable.
That's
right?
different.
I've never seen it like that, and maybe he has in somewhere. I've never seen it that way. That'd be something I have to look into. See if there's, I mean, you can't we talk about you can't just do a bonus. It needs to be something within a contract. So if it's within the context of the contract,
Yeah,
you might be able to do something like that.
something like deferred comp where it's earned over a period of time, and it
we're paying it anyway. When they leave, we're having to do a headhunter for 35 G's.
right.
Um,
But I like where you're going with the performance based, both of you. And the reality is this council hasn't held anybody accountable, and that's an issue that I have. In other words, what are those goals that we set on the manager? And evaluation. I asked Matt for his evaluation as well, because I was looking to say, hey, you've got a good story here. You need to be telling us what that story is. I know we've been accomplishing great things, and to be able to look at that and evaluate performance, and I'm looking back over back to 93. There was a lot of city managers in there that, quite frankly, I don't know if they would have been or they were held accountable. I know that some of them probably should have been run out of here quicker. But the point being is we as a council need to, one, hold them accountable, and be diligent about our reviews as well. If it's an annual review, it ought to be an annual review. And what are the goals and responsibilities? Are they achieving them or not? That's why I'm a big scorekeeper. My background is accounting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ensure that, hey, do we have the reports in place? And this not only goes for the manager, it goes for all the departments as well. Everybody's got to keep score to determine, one, whether they're doing a job, are we improving, are we declining, what can we do to make things better, right? And if we're not constantly evaluating ourselves, we're not moving the ball forward. And that's my only point.
Linda, do you have a comment?
I do. I think that's a great idea, evaluation, because we didn't evaluate Matt appropriately. And maybe built into the contract with a new city manager, they get reevaluated at 6 months. And that will maybe draw people in. Instead of saying you won't get a raise for a year, let's do it on performance. I mean, 6 months is really not a good indicator for a city manager job, but it gives you you get an idea or a clue of, are they going to work for us or not? What is their performance in 6 months, and tie some sort of a monetary incentive to the 6 month review as well, not only just the year review. And don't let it go past a year. And we all, I mean, we all get annual reviews, and we either get raises or we don't get raises according to our review. And we didn't do that for Matt. And I think we need to put it hard on the calendar when they're hired, that next year they don't have a choice on whether we evaluate them. We have to call for an evaluation, and we did not do that.
Yeah.
So, but I think doing it every 6 months is a great idea as a pull to maybe bring another competent city manager in. It was a great idea.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a good idea.
One of the other things too is quality surveys. We need to survey the community and staff and understand where those issues are. These are something that's core to all corporations. And there's no reason why we as a small city can't effectively do that and get some feedback and kind of give direction rather than operate in a vacuum. It provides information for us to react to, and more importantly, to reset our course.
I'm reading right here on the front page here, we used to, in January of even numbered years, the city clerk, chief of police, fire chief, building inspector shall receive a performance evaluation by the city council in January of odd number
Are you reading
years.
this? That's pre-1994. I don't know if it's.
That's what
that
I'm
language-
reading. It was, yes, we said pre-94.
I don't think it's in the new charter. I think it's.
I'm just saying this is a good idea.
No, the personnel manual probably has something about evaluations or whatever. I know Matt was working on staff evaluations. I don't know where he ended up.
when I go to DMV down here, okay, at the tax collector's office,
There's a card.
we should have automatic microphones. We start speaking pumped on.
Just leave it on.
So when I go down there, before I leave, they're handing me a card, and right there is the box with a lock on it. So you fill out the card while you're there. Why wouldn't we have something sitting here at the counter when they come in here to get service or help here? Same way.
Great idea.
The little card, drop it in the box. It gives Andy a great read on what's happening with his staff, how they're doing. And quite frankly, good, bad, or indifferent, to get resident input is always great because they're the ones we're serving. They're the ones that we need to hit the rut in the road with.
Now, do we not have it?
There's nothing over there but complaint. No, the complaint department's the mayor's email.
Yeah. Yeah, if we get those on cards, that'd be great.
No, but I think what we've done is we've flushed out some issues with both sides, whether we have a strong mayor or the current way we're operating today. What we've got is some working framework that I think was flushed out in this meeting that potentially one can capture the information and provide information to the respective department heads as a copy and potentially have more awareness for whoever is sitting in your chair, the city manager, to be able to help, react to concerns of the citizens, right? And potentially look at doing a better job of, one, evaluating our performance on an annual or semi-annual basis. And that needs to be pushed down to staff as well. That needs to occur as well. And I don't know if that's been occurring if you have performance evaluations. Once again, a core element in any corporation. You evaluate your staff and then you have salary treatment based on their performance. Performance-based. Yeah.
I'll take it one step further. How many different points of contact do we have with the public? Right? Building, permit, right? Utilities,
Administration.
police, administration,
Fire.
right? These are all points, Andy, that we could have feedback by the public, and that feedback could really rally into performance reviews, and it would be because in the car business, you go into the service department and have a bad day, and the service writer tells you to blow it at your tailpipe. They don't give you good service. They didn't fix your car, blah, blah. Those people go right online and give you bad reviews. Those bad reviews directly relate to the bottom line of the company or the financial institution. Same thing happens here with us. We lose the public's confidence because we either don't handle a problem, we rawhide them and tell them that's the way it is and tell them to set versus doing it nicely. Yes, ma'am.
But don't you think people tend to do their complaints rather than their kudos?
Nope. I think
there aren't as many people saying, "Oh, this was great," as there are saying, "I don't like this."
3 times that I've gone into the DMV down here in Palm Harbor, 3 times or before Palm Harbor down here, I've gone in there. I've specific because they were so phenomenal behind the counter, and I'm used to Virginia just rawhiding the jeebies out of you. They're like, take it or leave it. And these people over here are like, we're so glad you're here. By the way, it's $1,000. You're like, here.
I think that's not usual.
No.
More people that are happy are just they're in and they're happy.
I'm going to agree with Lisa on that. I think people are more inclined to complain about bad experiences than they are to, because the expectation is to be serviced and serviced well. That's the expectation. And so
maybe I'm different because I 3 times left good cards and didn't complain once.
You are special.
Well, you had brought up,
Short putt special. That's what you
the mayor brought up an issue about having someone in the city hall to guide people or to help people when they come in.
We talked
And
about that.
I'm all for have a volunteer, put a desk right in the front lobby. Now, I don't, if we can get a volunteer, but I think we probably could get someone to come over and volunteer. And if you go into tax collector's office, they hand you out a rating card. Rate us. Every time you walk, I throw it away, but they give you one every time you go in there. Now, if you want to make a compliment or a complaint, like the majority of people will complain, and you see a complaint here and there, it may not be valid, but if you get a constant complaint on a specific issue, well, you have an issue. So if you have someone as a volunteer on the desk, guide somebody, it's over this way or this way, talk to somebody, this person's out to lunch, you want to wave or whatever, they can contact that person.
Yeah,
as a
the Walmart
volunteer.
greeter concept.
Hand out,
That's a volunteer position. That's a great idea.
to hand out a card while they're waiting, rate us. How are we doing? Or you have a problem with somebody or whatever.
Love that, actually.
And that can come into us through Ashley or whoever.
You know how many people are sitting home in their house right now wishing they had something to do? They're playing crossword puzzles.
Exactly.
And you can bring them in here on shifts of 3 or 4 hours each.
Air
And just say, hey,
conditioning's
meet
down,
and
they're
greet.
going to be sitting in here.
Sal could bring them lunch.
Speaking of Sal, let's go say, you have comments, Sal?
Gary will bring him candy. I mean, yeah, it's work out.
We've got several issues with something like that. We've done it before. This isn't the first time I've heard this idea, and we've actually implemented it. We had several volunteers sitting at that desk, and from the hours of 8 to 11:30, they were sleeping. Pretty much,
The face of the city.
we were having Suncoast Gateway citizens volunteer to sit at that desk, and pretty much, I respect Calvin's passion, but we don't have that much of an influx of people where we'd be constantly handing cards and reciprocating with people and talking, where most of the time they were sleeping. And they slept pretty hard because, you can hear the close back and forth. And then it became a concern of an active shooter situation, of having someone out front like that. This is why we converted the front room out there. It used to be an office, and we changed it to a conference room because of an active shooter situation. And that was passed on by a previous chief. And Chief, if you want to chime in on that notion as well, that's kind of why, I spoke to him about making a new plan, but I've talked to previous chiefs about it, and that was always a point of concern of having something out there. But we've had a desk out there quite a few times, and it's just we don't get the reception that we would expect. It's just like here at council. It's just like the chairs. I am looking into pricing them out. To me, it's not about the comfort of the chairs. It's the fact that council, city manager, the department heads, everyone is doing their job. Everyone is constantly working and doing their job. I can tell you, I've sat in this room where it's been full. If you have a subject that people want to address, they will fill this room. Not a problem. It's the fact that government is moving along. We are addressing people's needs. We are accomplishing what we need to accomplish. We're reaching out for new ideas, new monies coming in from the state, grants, everything that we're trying to do. This is why you don't have such a packed room. It's not about that they don't want to hear you. It's that they know government is moving along. If they have a concern, I guarantee you this room will be full. I can guarantee you that. I've seen it. There have been subjects in the past. Dissolution of the city, off the top of my head, room will be jam-packed out into the parking lot.
All right, so
But
putting Red Bull in the refrigerator won't solve the problem. What do you have? Any suggestions?
I think those tickets that you were talking about at the windows, if people come in and go either to the administration or the utility, put a little card, like Chris was saying, like they do in the DMV, put it right at the windows.
we could start with the cards. We could start with a call line, put that out. If we want to do a separate mailer, we can include something on the utility bill. Reach out
I
to
guess
somebody.
everybody there.
If you have a point of concern, we can create a specific email or a specific phone number for that, so people can respond directly to that, and then we can have it forwarded to the appropriate department heads and take care of that. I think that you having a person out there, 8 hours a day, and shifting involved, because that's what we did with the trailer park. They did it 3-4 hour shifts. You weren't getting the reception you wanted.
So I think having a phone number for them to contact, like in our dealerships, we put, hey, I'm Chris Mayer, I'm the owner. If you have any questions, here's my direct cell number. It gives access. It gives you direct access to somebody to talk to. So maybe that's an idea as well. The cards are a great idea, as long as the cards aren't going to the department heads that you're complaining about. The cards need to go somewhere like to the city manager.
Well, and I wonder if it wouldn't, because there's another aspect we've mentioned before, having a kiosk out there that somebody can come in. If you put a kiosk out there, if they can sit down and actually, it goes right to a comment form that they can fill it out. Then it's digital already. You don't have it's not paper. It goes to a queue.
Well, and you
I
could
like
use
putting it in the windows or putting it in a mail.
They can do it from home.
Water
I mean,
bill.
Right. But the kiosk could also be beneficial into online submitting a permit, other things like that.
Right.
Could be tied into our
Exactly.
IT organization and facilitate moving.
Yeah, you put up a portal where it has a cool thing, comment, apply for building permit, grants, application.
Right.
As long as it goes
right.
to one data bank, and the data bank can be sent it in our emails every month maybe or something, so we see what's going on.
There's probably a software system out there that does that.
And we may have even the capability within some of the stuff we have now. I'm sure there's probably some.
Probably an email. All you have to do is send an email. We have a system right now for capturing if you need a service request in utilities around the city. You can go and put that in, and it sends it to, I believe it goes to Ashley, and then she decides to who it sends to after that, or
Yes, the majority of them are public works, utilities, service requests that are needed around the city. I do get other questions, concerns, complaints, prompts, and those get forwarded to the city manager or appropriate department.
right. But the workings of how that works within our existing application, I think it's part of iWorks. It captures the data. There's no reason you couldn't build a front end on that to capture the information you guys are talking about. Being able to submit, how we doing, or put a checklist in there and have fill out a survey, right from that window.
I can try to figure out if we can be Yelped, if that's a word. Like a lot of people do stuff online on their phone, and you don't have to worry about illegible handwriting either. So there might be like an app that we'll investigate and see if there's.
I mean, wouldn't you rather get a card that you can look at and respond to versus them go online and hit you with a Google review?
Well, there's postage.
We don't have a very good Google rating, just so you know. I've looked at it. It's
There's
terrible. It's
postage
like
with that, though.
3 point.
Do we have a Google rating?
Yeah, it's like 2.7. It's like terrible.
Self-addressed envelopes, there's postage involved with that, though. If you do a card, email's cheap, free.
Well, I don't want to get too far off topic. A good conversation, obviously.
Great
I
conversation.
think there's that. So,
Off topic, Sal, did you discuss anything about a day for the 4th of July?
Yes, actually, not to steer off topic. I did reach out to them. They're waiting for July 22nd. I believe there's going to be some tariff ruling coming across. They didn't want to give me any pricing, but they're open for as soon as that date passes, they're going to contact me, and they didn't want to give me anything up, until that date. So, but I did reach out to them.
So you're waiting to that to talk to staff about it, I guess?
Well, yeah. I just wanted to see what day we're going to lock in and move forward. And I pretty much told them
Well, I'd like to
whatever
have
you got
the,
available for that week.
it seems like Newport Richie and everybody else has a set day. It's always on that day every year. And if we have a contract with them and make it easier for them, and then citizens know, well, it's going to be on that Friday or that Saturday, Sunday, whatever, every year. So anyway,
that would
Well,
be
we can set a date without a contract too.
right,
but,
exactly.
but with tariffs, that only deals with contracts. All we're doing is we're specifying a day or a date, not an amount.
I can let them know.
Well,
That's
I
what they kicked back.
The point is if there is a tariff that is levied against wherever it's coming in, it's going to apply across the board to all fireworks companies, right?
Yes.
Because they come from China,
Right.
right? So the point being is we need to pick a day and just settle on a day.
But
Would that be a job for the new special events committee?
they can probably take that up, sure, once we meet.
Well,
But they got to get with this, like I said, with the chief.
Do we have a
and
quorum?
Gary and-
No, not yet.
We don't have a quorum yet.
No, we're working on that. But I think we can do it outside of that too. I mean, council can set a date.
Well, we can set like a 20,000 minimum. We know we'll do that in the
We're not
contract.
talking amounts. We're talking days.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if they do ask that, we can.
Again, I'm going to just not get too far off topic. We could talk about lots of things here.
Right.
Have we closed the topic?
Shit, we're all in the same room
I want to
together.
try to keep us on topic, and then
Are we
and then- Not quite.
Okay.
I had a couple questions, informational purpose I'd like to get answered about government styles, and then just so we have an understanding. I think we're all kind of in agreement. We like
What's happening?
what's happening. I want to make, before I jump into my questions, I want to make a suggestion. I don't necessarily want to rush into going out and hiring firms at $30,000. We can talk more about that if you want, if we want to put it on the agenda or not, because that was one of the things that we need to decide. Obviously, do we go forward, or we've got Andy in place for the foreseeable future? Do we take a breather and give some time and see how that goes, and then make a decision later on down whether we want to hire or not? I go and share now. There was on all those 4 packets or whatever, I found some, and I'd be happy to pull them up eventually. But there was some issues. These are firms that are going to go out and search for high quality candidates and all that, and they had some issues in addressing the council. One, I think, was the same packet they put together when we hired Matt. Some minute things that if you get a resume and they spell something wrong, it's like, nope, move on, right? And every one of the companies had some issues that, so I was a little disappointed in the attention to detail. Although we have worked with Basinger Pass and they did a good job, and so I don't want to fault over small little things, but I was a little disappointed in some of that stuff. That being said, not necessarily the reason, but I do want to take some time because we do it right. I don't think we're in bad hands at all. So
If I may, Mayor?
absolutely.
Just if it helps inform your decision, I really like it here. I like the mission. I like the people, the citizens I've met, and the staff, and I enjoy challenge, and I enjoy being part of a team that's working to make things better. And I think that was discussed earlier by Councilman Mueller. And so I'm not looking to go anywhere. When there was a thing a couple weeks ago about maybe making a change, so. But I'm not actively looking to go anywhere. I like being here. So if that helps inform your decision to maybe pause on the search firm, if you do go forward with that, if the council votes that next week, then I'll adjust. But I do like being here, and I've checked with the home front, and it's okay.
His marriage is improving, is what he's trying to tell us.
Sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's right. He's never seen his wife better than on Friday night when he gets home.
And since I've got the microphone, I just want to say on the talk about being evaluated, whether it's by cards or whatever, evals, I would insist on being evaluated because I would want the feedback, make sure I'm not going too far afield before you give me a steering correction. So, and then one of the first things I asked here is what our evals do here on the staff, and it looks like that hasn't. Maybe the hurricane's gone away or something, but it hasn't been done. So, I think everybody deserves an evaluation, so they can improve on any areas that need weakness on, and they can hear how much they're appreciated on the good things. So, I'll be getting on that. I believe it's we'll go back to the 1 October to 30 September evaluation period. So, and then as for myself, I think a 6-month evaluation and an annual. One can be advisory, one can be negotiating or whatever, but however you want to do it.
So just to kind of gauge, to comment.
Yeah, comment. Strategic planning.
Sure.
I thought it was already on. She keeps turning me off.
Yes.
Strategic planning.
You can't have snacks and stuff and leave that on. Because then you have,
Like that. So you're saving me. Thank
I
you.
am. I was.
She's reaming me out. You're saving me. Can I move somewhere else? I'm just kidding. Anyway,
Out there.
do we have a
Just kidding. That's a joke.
just remember you're up for reelection.
That's right. That's right.
We have a mayor on council.
I have not held a meeting yet, like on a strategic planning. Again, I'm still just been absorbing where we are and lay of the land, and but my first thoughts are that we're doing some really things well before my time here, and I know we can add to that. I think you can't get money from the state unless you ask. So
As evidenced, yes.
you can be against lobbyists. You think it's a dirty business or it's not how things should run, but it's the world we live in right now where if you don't have a lobbyist, you're not getting anything, and others that have lobbyists are. So we can afford a lobbyist maybe less than a big city, but when you get it and it pays for itself in spades, it shows you that that's just a good example of a strategic change here, and I'd like to build on that. I already get back on that sort of I'll involve the directors, the department heads.
I just don't think that we're going to be able to give. I mean, we can talk to you. We can go into the office and we can sit down and thank you for all that open door stuff. But if we come together collaboratively and put together a game plan and then we put legs on it, we have time frames of when it's supposed to hit, we can monitor that as we go.
To your point, one of the first things that Matt did back in February
Yeah, right for budget.
no, in February, because I went and documented all. This
Oh,
was
this February,
4/23/24. I documented our strategic plan, and one of the things I did sent to Matt prior to Andy coming on board is I said, hey, we need to go back and look at that list, and this is something you have to do annually anyway. You need to, or during mid-course, you need to evaluate whether your priorities have changed. The hurricane certainly may have changed some of that stuff. But I got 3 pages of data. I sent a file to Matt, and it should be in Andy's email.
I inherited the email, so
Right.
I'll have it.
So if you could maybe share, and I could ask this, if you guys want, he could share that with you and see everything that we spent 3 or 4 hours discussing and evaluating and prioritizing. We listed them as priority, and then others as opportunities allow. And I don't know if you've seen this, Chris, but it behooves us to really go back and look at this and some of the things that have changed. I mean, who would have thought we got $4.3 million as an appropriation from the state? It changes some of the things. We made that fire truck a priority, and we started that process to secure that vehicle. And now, hey, we got $800,000 to use in another area.
Councilman, was that a workshop? Would you propose?
Yeah, we did a workshop
a workshop to review our strategic plan
and see where we're at and reprioritize. I mean, this is.
I think it's important, and
This is
and
one
if you would
thing.
put that on the list, I'd
Yeah.
greatly appreciate that.
And like I said, I've already been working on this stuff in the background. Not only that is, in the budget process last year, we had department goals and direction as well. And I don't know where that stands, and that was going to be my next question to Andy. Are you aware of these department goals, and how are we tracking to all these items? These are things that I'd like to see that we keep score of, so that we can, one, assess where we're going, and if we're not going, how do we move forward in that area? And in the same context, we set in motion a capital structure that we're going to spend X dollars this year. And if you recall my comments from the last meeting, is we're not on track on the spend levels that we should be on. Now things have changed, and I think we need to continue to, beat the drum on this, because these are things either the community needs or the department's needs and the city needs to ensure that we can move forward as a city and accomplish the goals and objectives that we have in motion. Okay,
So how do we think about doing a budget? So we have a strategic plan to fuel the budget. You don't create a budget and then go back and say, well, how many pennies do we have left over to do? You create the strategic plan, and out of that, you say, okay, here's our financial priorities.
Well, so we have a strategic plan. It's a year old, right? So
It's a year. Yeah, it's over a year old.
So obviously we need to continue to have those exercises. When Matt came on a year and a half ago, he met with us all. We had a workshop. We went around with dots on stuff and had a large, very good session, right?
yeah,
I think we need to do that again.
This plan was developed
And that
after
came out
the
of that?
budget was already. This was finalized on 4/23 of 24.
After the budget was approved.
24. So
Well, so part of his, if I remember correctly, part of that exercise was to, as he was formulating the budget, was to drive out that, and
Right.
so it's timing is obviously now to do that, but it's not so old.
we just need to just tweak it.
These tweaks, right? So I don't think they're going to be hindered from actually putting the budget together. That budget, that was a strategic plan. It was durable more than a year anyway, right? Talking about, the fire truck, for example, that was a 5-year
Yeah.
investment. The firehouse, that was overwhelmingly one that, so we're making steps toward that. And so obviously the budget needs to be geared toward that, those things that were identified. But I do think we very soon, if not before the budget, after the budget, have those sessions go into next year. And for sure, as we go into asking the legislature for additional money in the next appropriation season, we can start talking about some of that stuff to get that on the plate. Right?
Eric, can we put the strategic plan in front of the budget?
It is. That's what I'm saying.
No, for right now. You said, well, maybe we'll start it up after the
Well,
budget.
again, I know he's getting ready to start budget discussions or whatever, so we're kind of late in the game to have a.
I think the one Matt did in the spring or February of 24 informed the 25 budget developed over the summer
Right.
of 24.
And potentially using that as a guide, we need to probably have a couple hours, just take a look at that and then push those goals and objectives back to the departments, right? To ensure that they're continuing to move forward on the items that we prioritize.
I think we need to take that what we have and take a hard look at it, and if we'll get together for a meeting relatively quickly to kind of go through that with Andy,
So-
give him time to.
Right now, if you will, on the 15th, we have scheduled a workshop for the budget. So if you'd like me to.
7:15?
7:15 in 2 weeks. But if, and what I've asked the directors, we talked at length yesterday morning, and I asked for, 3 to 7 minute kind of an overview of their priorities. There's fixed things like healthcare premiums and things like that. There's things, so we're not going to focus on that in a budget review. We're going to focus on truly, I think you talked earlier about efficiencies. We'd like to update some antiquated software programs, for example. So there's one for the police. It'll be a new initiative, the Axios program, which has integrated body cams and ID vehicle tag recognition and automated police report procedures that speeds up there. So that's an example of there's similar things in other departments too, where we want to buy some things that are going to cost more up front, retire some old computer programs, make us more efficient. So as we grow, as we annex and grow and have more citizens, we can keep the size of the staff the same and pay better the people that are here. So those are the sort of, in my view, maybe more tactical than strategic, but we're still trying to follow the strategic plan of 2024. But what we can do is on the 15th, I can have them focused on the strategic changes like that. We already are. We're trying to talk about the things that'll make us more efficient. So we can move.
Any possibility at all we can do it any other day than the 15th? I'm gone that week, the whole week.
I think I originally set it the 10th, and then I came back and it was moved to the 15th. Do we need to move it a little?
I mean, I'm good on the 10th and the 11th, and I'm good on the 21st. I'm just not good on
We're
that.
trying to do it opposite of council. That's what we discussed.
That's
Yeah,
what
we don't want to do it the same
The
week.
29 for workshops.
So we have regular meeting on the 22nd.
Can you zoom in? Or no?
During the day? No. I'm teaching classes during the day that week.
I don't know what time you and Adam discussed the time for the workshop. The budget.
Is daytime better for people, or is nighttime better? Or?
I'm available after 4.
Daytime's
You're
good.
talking about July?
Yes, sir.
July 5th.
Are you going?
I'm gonna be gone. I can do it Teams.
What day you gonna go?
I'm gonna be gone from the 9th to the 10th of August.
Okay, so
He's
if we
gone
move to the
month.
10th, you're out.
A month.
15th, you're out. So
I mean, I think as a new council person, it's important I'm at that meeting. And if you guys do
I
it
agree.
today, I won't be there.
I mean, if we did it in the evening,
Yeah.
could you zoom in?
Yeah, I can't. Absolutely. 100%.
I'd like the evenings better myself, but
The 15th in the evening?
Do you want to move it to say 3:00 on the 22nd, and then just kind of roll into the evening meeting?
I can do that.
Something like
You-
that.
you wanna postpone it a week?
Stack up the day. Well, just because he's
I
out the
can do
whole
it on the
week.
22nd, 3:00.
because 22nd we have a council meeting.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should roll it into
So
the
saying
council
we-
meeting.
We'll do it
So
before.
we
the
could do like
meeting.
a 3:00 workshop, then a 5:00. We have something else at 5:00, right?
No,
No.
No, nothing.
no, the 22nd, the trim will be on the council meeting. That has to be after trim. All of that needs to be after 5:30. So we normally include that as an item in the agenda.
Yeah.
So trim would
That's what I
be,
was thinking of. It was the budget, budget
Yeah.
amendment.
that actually needs to be on the council agenda for the
Do
22nd.
you think if we stacked them on the same day, though, that would be doable? Like, if we need more time, we can schedule a second part. Does that work for you, Nancy?
That'd
It's
be
not
great for me.
uncommon for cities to do workshops at so by the council.
So the budget / strategic planning
That probably
workshop,
saves us on travel too. So
we would move it to the 22nd.
Perfect.
Okay, I think the lobbyist is also coming and briefing us that evening.
Yes.
Awesome. So, okay.
What time on the 22nd? So I'm
3?
aware.
3 o'clock.
It's at 3 o'clock. That works for everybody?
Sure.
I'll be doing the teams,
You'll
but
be
yeah,
teams again?
I can do it anytime, any day, as long as I'm not driving down the road.
Okay.
So, I won't do a meeting while I'm driving.
Right, good policy.
But yeah,
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, so, so that's the budget discussion, not the strategic plan stuff that'd be incorporated into it. Again, we've got one thing I want to say, and I'm all about strategic planning needed. Again, we went through the exercise. We've got something together. We have a thing in IT world called analysis paralysis as well, right? So you can plan, but you never execute. As a matter of fact, it's great to segue into this. So I had a conversation with Chet before I was elected or whatever. And this is a Pasco Times article from August 27, 1998, right? Master plan finds potential for a remarkable waterfront. Going nowhere, right?
Back
so
in 98.
back in 98, we've had several. This is just one example. It's a vision of Fort Ritchie's future, and it's no execution. So plan, no execution, is you might as well not even plan, right? So we've got a plan. It's only a year old. I think we need to use that as a lion's share of where we go, and we need to focus on execution. We've got this money coming in, and water pipes is a big issue with the residents' infrastructure, right? And so we got $2.5 million coming to us. We need to execute on that. That's obviously moved to top priority list now since we've got some funding. The stations as well, fire truck. We can pay the cash for that, save some interest. I mean, there's lots of things we can do, but we need to focus on some execution. We're going to have plans for the waterfront. Hopefully within the next 30, 45 days, start looking into. I don't want to get bogged down in strategic planning exercises when we kind of have that in place. Again, let's take a look at it, tweak where necessary. I think there is some tweaks we could probably put in there. Let's not bog ourselves down with that and really focus after budget season. We get all this stuff in line. Let's sit down and have a good couple workshop sessions and hammer it out for next year and for the upcoming appropriation season.
I think Andy mentioned it on that 3 o'clock meeting. You know, we can touch base on the planning
Absolutely.
and the budget. You know, it's not, we don't need to sit down and rehash the whole thing. We might say, that doesn't apply anymore.
Definitely.
Wait, we had a
Right.
flood. This applies more,
Definitely.
like Dave said. You know?
Yeah,
I just-
Right.
and that, to that point is, if we have that in our hands now,
Yeah.
that gives us a period of runway to look at it so that we can have a more effective meeting. You know,
I'll dig out the,
that, and then maybe even the context of the notes that came forward. I think it was on a 423 meeting. I got a note here. There was a resolution 24-09 was the one that had all of our work memorialized in a document.
So, but I don't want to lose sight of actually having another facilitative session
Right.
in the near future before the
Plans are good for 3 to 5 years normally.
exactly.
So, I mean, you have to evaluate them so you hit them in 3 years. But they're good for usually, I just looked it up again, I thought it was 5 to 10, but it says 3 to 5 years strategic plans.
Yeah, so we have that some runway. And so then if we get together after budget season and all that calms down, and we can because we also need to start looking at what we're going to ask for next year too. So that the earlier we get that done, the better. That way Mike can start working on that, and that'll come out of that
So
conversation.
as a reference to the water pipes, I agree 100%. And I've talked with Matt and Daryl on that subject a few times. And if Daryl was here and could bring up our existing water pipes during a meeting, well, Daryl could be here with Andy, and we could, during the meeting, show some, I can kind of explain, and we could look at that and find out where we can put that money.
Yeah, no,
Best place to do
they
that.
need to be. Like I think I mentioned last meeting. Don't wait to see if we got to start assuming now that we're going to get that, and now we have it. So
It needs to get done.
we need to be looking at that for sure. Let's wrap this up because lunchtime. A couple questions I want to quickly ask since you're here. Again, informational. I just want everybody to see that if there was. Well, before I do that, is there any objection to putting on hold the going out search firm, or do we still want to do that? Or can we just kind of take a breath and see?
Well, I'm taking Andy's lead. This is his position. And I appreciate Andy coming in here and with his knowledge and experience. And you plan on do you have like a time frame you want to stay here? Is it indefinitely or years, months? I don't know.
It wouldn't be 10 years, but I could double the original 6 months plan, and I'd love to be a part of getting some things.
I think it would be, I don't mind tabling. If you give us at least like 6 months warning or 5 months warning, at least I would say would be fine. That gives us a chance to get our
Yeah,
a chance to do the right thing.
He's under contract for 6 months now, so
Right.
or whatever.
We
and
can
so-
reevaluate him at that time.
and so
So to stay.
I would at least let's take a breather for a couple months
Right.
and we can revisit it and save us $30,000. And maybe if when we get to next year's budget, and maybe in the budget we put in for a search fee or whatever, 33 or whatever budget that, just so we have it going next year if we need it. But anyway, just before we act on it and hire somebody to go out search, let's just pause. Good with that? Let Andy have some runway.
Yep.
So,
Mike's on. I'm good with that.
okay.
I mean, part of that was he was renting a place up here, and that's on his own. I mean, we upped his salary to accommodate
Right.
that, right? But I'd like to know how that's working out, being a remote or being able to commute and then be separated for the week.
My wife's very understanding. It's getting me out of a lot of barn chores.
And as a Navy guy, you were typically deployed for periods of time anyway, right?
Yes, you're right. Sometimes time apart is good, but no, I miss her. But I'm lucky to have a very supportive partner.
Well, we'd like to cast out an invite for her to come up, maybe stay here for a week or something.
But
you know.
somebody's got to feed the horses.
Yeah, if you want to bring her to your batch pad for a week, maybe she'd like that.
Bob, you can just take your motor coach down there, and you can just stay at Andy's place to feed the horses.
But I do look forward to the chance of really accomplishing.
Yeah, so let's
There's
focus on that as opposed to focus on.
I'm good with
We
that.
got somebody in place.
Table that for now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's good. The other couple questions, information personally, just on government styles, because I've been very curious as I've studied into this. Is it? And I even asked Florida League Cities; they weren't sure how it worked, but there's you can't hold two offices. Okay. And so even Ashley, if we wanted to make her interim city manager, she couldn't be city manager because city clerk and charter officer, right? But there's actually case stuff out there, attorney general, whatever, that via the ex officio, that you can establish ex officio duties too, where you're not considered holding two offices, but that you're assuming the responsibilities of the other office, whatever. So my question is if we were to look at possibly putting something in the charter about extending ex officio city manager duties to a given situation. Going back to the hypothetical, if it's not me, fine. If it's not about me, right? I'm just thinking sometime in the future, when we get the notice that Andy's leaving or whatever, and there's somebody sitting, whether it be the city clerk, or whether it be the mayor, or whether it be the council, or whatever, that the council, the elected representatives, could make a decision, and it could be a supermajority or whatever, that they would bestow that upon that, as opposed to rushing trying to hire an interim that we could continue to function, and that could be for a certain length of time or even in perpetuity. So you have the flexibility to operate like that.
I'm not. Oh, go ahead.
Well, how's interim before?
He was operations manager. He's not a charter officer.
Okay.
I've not seen that done. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it would just be language in your charter that would have to agree to do that.
So-
with the specifics like you're talking about.
That
to
would
make
be
sure.
voted upon too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
By the constituents.
By
It
the
would be
council.
council, and then the charter would be the
Well, so the actual change to the charter to allow that ability of council to extend the office to an individual, right?
Your resident
would be-
voters.
yes.
And so my thought is that provides flexibility given whatever circumstance you're in, that that the council, which again, elected representatives who represent the people, that you could instead of having to go and hire a city manager, you could bestow that office upon somebody temporarily or for even an extended period of time, and then take it back as well. And so it just gives some flexibility. So I
To
just
get a city manager in place, right?
or pseudo operate without one, right? You're just basically you're not changing the language of the city manager. You're just bestowing the city manager capabilities on another individual, whether it be city clerk, fire chief, police chief, similar type thing.
So that would be a vote by council.
By
It would also be a vote to remove that person.
That's correct.
Okay, so it would always be protected.
You're
because
hiring and firing the city manager capability.
The council approved it to be voted on by residents.
The chart. So if you were changing government styles altogether, where you were doing, say, strong mayor, right? You're doing away with city manager. That's one way. But if you could also build the charter in to have some flexibility that provides council with the ability, again, it'll go to the public for them to say, yes, we want to allow you to do that for those instances. It's just, it's kind of like a hybrid approach, if you will.
Let's look at the backside of it. Let's say none of us like Andrew, and we decide we're going to put you in there. I mean, you could do that. Could be. You see where I'm going?
Can't hold two offices.
But that's what he's asking for.
If you put a charter change in to where the council has the ability to ex officio that off. Again, they'll look at me.
So let's just say, hey, somebody else's mayor, not you. We're not talking about you. We're not really talking about you either, but we're talking about mayor, and we're talking about, so you could just get rid of and say, we're going to do this because now we can do this. Now we can do that. I'm just trying to look. I always try to look at the
future.
I try to look at the backside of it and the front side. So that could be used not wisely. Right.
But what if you have the wrong city manager in there, and you wanted to remove them, but you didn't want to stop running your city?
I understand. Yeah,
That would be
I'm saying
another option.
right, but I'm just saying I'm looking at the other. I always try to look at the good and the bad of something. The bad of it is that can be used unwisely.
But it would take three of us to do that.
But yeah, and exactly. So my point is the five of us up here represent the public, right?
Correct.
And so
Yes.
on everything.
Yes.
Okay. And I can tell you there are people out there that would like to see a strong mayor city. Okay.
Not many.
You'd be surprised. Okay. But again, it's not about me. I don't have a problem with me, obviously, but my fear is I would want to put something in place where we set ourselves up for failure later. And so but I don't like being unflexible and be able to, at the end of the day, the city needs to continue down the path of prosperity and all that, right? And so there may be a time when you might be in a situation down 10 years from now where you got somebody sitting up here that you might want to let them run the city for whatever reason, right? And because you don't want to hire a city manager, as we expand this list out that I showed you, 10 years from now, we've got 5, 6 different city managers in there. Same problem, right? Again, it all goes back to the charter. But if we look at, again, just food for thought, not to talk about it today, I just wanted to get the question answered for it. Can you build that flexibility in where you have a hybrid approach where you can be strong mayor? And again, I use that loosely because you can put things, and I was going to let people put on the board, but again, I'll wrap this up. But you can say, what's the disadvantage of strong mayor? He can hire and fire department heads. If you put that to the council vote that he can't do that without getting council to approve, it doesn't happen, right? You can still keep a very tight council and citizen representative government and hold the mayor's hands to the fire, just like you, the city manager, right? With appropriate language.
Can't fire him. He's an elected official.
You accept your pay from him and hire city manager. That's right.
Well,
So we
that
just
depends
talked
on the
about it.
council.
So to help wrap it up, let me look into how far that appointment could go legally. Let me come back to you guys with trying to do that process. How much can you task?
Good idea.
So that way you
And-
know the
and-
parameters you're talking.
And because I'm actually looking
Could
at
be
not
everything.
just
Could be you could do it for a day.
from the mayor council, but city clerk, fire chief, other charter officers, we may want to put in interim
So
capacity to
let
be
me
able to
look
do
at the extent of the ability to appoint those duties, and then you guys can have that conversation.
That's the only question I have.
So since the meeting was about which way we kind of wanted to go, and we've talked about it, are we going to talk about what we actually think now? I mean, is this over? Is this workshop over? Are we done?
We have to be.
Have we decided? What does everybody think?
Or what's the outcome?
I think that's,
What have the people
I
been
think right now we like carbon copying. If we have issues, we can carbon copy to go to city manager and then to either Daryl or
No, I'm talking about strong mayor city, or that's what we came here to talk about, really?
Well, we're not voting on it, but
Oh,
I know
think,
we're not
I'm
voting on
not
it.
for it. Everybody knows
Discuss
I'm
it.
not for it. I don't know what you guys think.
well, just for giggles, why are you not for it?
Why am I not for it?
Oh, one example, just spit something out.
Well, general administration, organizational development, community relations, and intergovernment relations. City manager has a whole lot of education and training in college and degrees, and hopefully some experience, which is ongoing, to be a good city manager. Talking to Mike Moore, other city managers and mayors, it's job specific. It's not an easy job. It's something that takes a lot of, like I said, policies, procedures, knowledge in this area, and people and the state government, as well as local governments, to make things move forward properly for the city. They're not out dealing with personnel. I mean, people, constituents. They're dealing with city personnel, making sure their job's done right, and representing the city to other, like not just you, but representing the city to other committees and
Right.
councils and
And a
county
mayor with those
commissions.
credentials couldn't do that?
Well, this managerial skills. I mean, you've managed people. I've managed people.
Well, let me ask
You have to
let me
have
ask this
someone that
question.
has to have that kind of knowledge in college education.
Could you run a city?
No.
Okay. Dave, could you run a city?
Anybody could run the city.
Well, just-
How effective
Exactly.
is the key.
Could you effectively run a city?
Maybe.
Okay. Could you effectively run a city?
Absolutely.
Could you effectively run a city?
No. You know, Richard Branson said, if somebody asks you to do something, just tell them yes, and then figure out how to do it later. But that doesn't mean
That's right. That's funny.
you did. It's one of my favorite.
That's a good
But
question.
it doesn't mean you're going to figure it out. You know, some people will, some people won't.
Right.
And I don't think anybody here has all the things that they need to be a city manager. I think they have parts of it.
Right.
Even you, I think you're a great mayor, but I don't think you have the whole background to be a city manager. I think you've done a fabulous job as mayor. You know that. I tell people that all the time. You've done a great job, but I don't think you can walk into a city manager because you just don't have that background right now. And could you work into it? Yeah, but eventually and long down the road, way past the point that we need it right now. You know, that's my. And you asked Bob, why no? My number one why no is I've had more citizens tell me they're not interested in that. That's my number one reason to come here and say, no, I don't think it's a good idea, because I've had more people tell me no than yes. I do happen to agree with that. But even if I didn't, if more people had told me yes, I would have had to come and say that, because we're representing the people.
And I think we're.
But more people have told me, no, that's not a good idea. And when I look into it, I don't think it's a great idea either.
And we're at that again. That's what we've kind of talked about. But again, I'm just for, like I said, giggles. If I go back, so you're a no, you're a hard yes, you're a maybe, you're a no. I'm a pretty confident yes. Okay. So, Sal, could you effectively run the city?
Can I effectively run the city? I have.
Thank you. Ansel, could you effectively run the city? Okay. And actually, you got some experience with all that or whatever. Could you effectively run a city?
I don't know that.
Okay. Wish our chief was here to ask him too. But so anyway, you're going to have varying perceptions, not perceptions, but varying points of view on the answer to that question, right? There's things that Andy, who's sitting in the seat right now, does not have. Would you agree?
Yeah,
You can effectively run a city?
I hope so, and
I would too.
I'm doing my best. But I think there's a role for both. I mean, the whole the council manager thing, it's evolved over hundreds of years, really. And I think done right, like I was making notes, and I thought, if he's getting so many calls about a broken pipe or why is my permit stuck, one of the things I can do is try to get out and about more and make sure people know they can call or email me and bother you with less about it. And when it comes to you, if you forward it to me, I'm on it. I'll get the whole staff, and get in the right place.
Right. And I get all that. We work through those things. My point being is that there may be individuals in here that could be put in that position. Okay. That if you were to allow that flexibility, it might be beneficial. because then you aren't scrambling to go out and try to find somebody. And again, who you're finding. I mean, you aren't finding somebody intimate with the city. Andy's learning. He lives in close to Sarasota, right? Which, where you live at?
Sarasota.
Is it Sarasota? He lives in Sarasota. He knows nothing about Port Richey other than the fact that there's obviously some ramp up time, right, that he's having to spend, and they get better over time, right? He has some experience in municipal government, obviously, but not the experience that Matt Koppler had, right? So in a sense, he's cutting his teeth as well. And so is one of us more versed in certain things than he is? Absolutely. Is he versed in some things other? Absolutely, right? So there's in every position, again, nobody's born into certain things. So my question is if we could see what's plausible from a flexibility standpoint, because I want to get this right for the next 100 years. Okay. And I don't know with the data we see that we have it right, because the data doesn't show us right. And I'm a data-driven decision maker. And so if we can find a way that makes sense, maybe we could propose that to the public to see if they're interested in having some flexibility.
Well, you're talking to us about if we could do this job. I probably could. I'm reading the city manager's duties and responsibilities of being manager of several companies, own them over several years. You've managed people before, Chris. That's why you say you can do this job. You have no political experience, though, do you? I didn't think so. So that's what I'm saying. You get the wrong person sitting up here. And you may have a good knowledge of what we want to do with the city living here, but you can change this. You're going to have sharks smelling blood in the water, and they're going to spend a bunch of money, and they're going to come sit in that seat, and they're going to just fire everybody and hire their brothers and sisters.
Again, so that's what I was getting at when I say what you don't like about it. Those type of, when you put them on a board, those type of things. How do you mitigate that? How do you keep if you were to have let's say hypothetically again, let's say that we had that flexibility, and you guys said, you know what, Eric did a great job. We're going to have you act as city manager via the ex officio, whatever. Done, right? And so I'm doing that, and you want to take the ability away from me to hire coming. I want all my cronies in here, so I want to fire. I want to fire all the city clerk, operation manager, and bring them on people, right? Well, if I can't do that without council approval, then that doesn't become a worry anymore, right? Because the electeds have to opine on that decision. The mayor doesn't have unilateral ability to do that. Right. So if there's specific things that you don't want the clerk, the mayor, and the vice mayor, whoever's acting as a city manager to do, you write that in, those checks and balances. I mean, government has all kinds of checks and balances.
Right. But if you get 3 councilmen, people in here that he's moved into taking that seat, because a lot of council people are not going to want to be a part of that, and they'll let him do whatever he wants.
Would venture to
get into
so
that. We had problems in the past in the city.
Who put you on the board?
Citizens.
That's exactly right. Who put you on the board?
Citizens
Who
voted.
put you on the board? Who put you on the board? Okay? Who put me on the board? When you run for election, the citizens vote who they want up here. So, and I'm going to go back when I say I built a team earlier. The residents built a team. I just started the movement, if you will, right? You know, I platform. People reached out to me. I responded back. They had confidence in my leadership.
Well,
and so
the 3 of us did.
Huh?
You, David, and me did, kind of.
Did what?
Went out, lobbied, and talked to people and explained to them.
Well, I'm talking before you guys were even in picture.
He was elected by himself.
I was elected by myself, mayor. I did all my campaign material. I walked around. I door knocked. I did all those things, right? So, but that is
followed the process.
I followed the process. I sat in the seat. I had opposition up here against me. I didn't sleep at night. I still don't sleep, but I really didn't sleep back then. And you know, I had all this inner turmoil, which was ineffective, inefficient, and we weren't getting anywhere. And so as things changed, right? The people had a confidence. They trusted my leadership, and so they put candidates up here to continue going forward, right? And so in April they may change that and may put somebody else. I don't know what's going to happen. And frankly, I don't care, right? If the people, no, I really don't. If the people
you want to make it a strong mayor city, it's not going to.
Here's my point. If the people no longer want me to represent them, they're going to vote me out. Okay. If they don't want you to represent them, they're going to vote you out. Okay. That's their prerogative. That's what they need to do. Talk about term limits and all the different things that happen. The ultimate term limit is when you come up for election. if you get voted out, you've just been term limited. You know, if you got people up here that are doing a good job and really making a difference, you want them to stay in there, continue to make a difference. And so when I say I don't care, I love the city. I put my heart and soul and every
And
ounce.
everybody appreciates that, Eric.
That's not, again, I'm just saying this, but at the end of the day, if the people elect me in April, I'm going to continue to put that same fervor in doing it. But if they think they want to change, that's their prerogative, and I'll gladly serve my last day, step down, and I wish, which I didn't have, I'll wish my successor the best of luck, and I'll support him, her, to the best of my ability. Right? But again, we're up here for a reason, and so when I talk about as we change things, you are the voice of those folks out there.
Right.
They can't all sit up here.
And they're counting on to have someone sitting there know what they're doing and someone there know what they're doing.
Again,
And
anything that we
doing
would,
their job.
again, it's a conversation. Anything we put goes before the vote. Are you afraid to put a change to a vote?
I'm not afraid of anything.
Okay, well, that's all we're talking here. We're just talking about.
But I'll explain, and I will go door to door, and I'll put signs of protesting it.
Okay.
That I will do, because I'm a firm believer it'll take the city backwards.
Okay, well, that's, again, I'm not talking about changing, taking the
And
city
it's not
backwards.
personal with you,
I don't take it personal.
but I'm just saying that's what it'll do.
I don't know what the answer is.
If you do that, then you're going to have a hard time putting someone in this seat to administrate, being that you're going to be making decisions and based on whoever's sitting in these seats.
Again, the only question that I ask, is there a way to provide flexibility so that if we wanted the city clerk, if we wanted the fire chief, if we wanted the mayor to hold the reins from an execution perspective?
So that's what Nancy's going to look into.
Exactly.
So,
So let's
what are
not
we
talk about going on a campaign to stop
so
things.
the jury's out.
The jury, all I'm saying, keep an open mind. Look at your charter as a living, breathing document that, as 100 years have shown us, in this past 25 or whatever has shown us, is there something we can do to rein that in?
That is what I've done. History shows why more cities have gone to a council manager run city and got away from the mayor run city, because it gets Matt Douglas, who worked for me for several months. I helped him out a lot, spent a lot of time with him, was a mayor in a strong mayor city. And why did he run for that position? No one else would run against a corrupt city mayor and chief. They were in cahoots, right? Borderline racketeering.
I'm not going to doubt. There's a potential. There is potential for corruption in any form.
Lived in that town.
You could say that in our city manager form of governments that we've had since '94, there's been some corruption along the way with city managers, and the mayor's has been mayor, right? And this council's been the council. There's 5 cities right there that are relatively our size that operate under a strong mayor. Must work for them. I don't know what's going to work for us. I'm not
There's
looking.
way more. There's way more that are.
Again,
What's working right now?
And you've been mayor for
We can
what?
improve
You've been
on
mayor
it,
for
but-
2.5 years, correct? So,
I'm not advocating that we change this.
but you just said you're for it. You're
No,
for it.
I'm
Did you not say
I'm
that?
concerned about who would come after me, which is my most important thing.
But didn't you not say when you went around the table that you're highly for it?
No, he said he could do the job.
I could do the job.
No, when we just went around and I said I'm against it, he said I'm against it. And you said you're highly for it. He's strongly for it. You said you're for it.
No,
Dave
no,
said
that was
maybe.
that was about who
Whether we could
effectively
do
run
the
city.
job.
Who could do the job?
Okay,
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
And I'm
I
confident in my ability.
misunderstood. I misunderstood.
So that's. But as far as our consensus, I'm in total agreement. Let's keep it how it is for now, with some tweaks. I said that from the beginning. I've said it the whole time.
Well, and she's gonna look and see if there's an opportunity there.
But there are some things that we're hamstrung if we have a which we do. We have a great city clerk, one of the best.
We do have the best.
Ashley, I truly appreciate your service and I love you to death. You're a great city clerk.
I love you to life. I want you to live.
Yeah, I'd like to know what she thinks.
And if we wanted to put her in a more executive role, interim or otherwise, we couldn't do that because it's prohibited. Okay, take the heat off me. Forgive me. Ashley's much better than I am. By far.
She's got so much going on. She wouldn't be able to do one thing more.
Right. So that's
Not one thing more.
so
She does so much.
just explore.
Not one thing more.
Explore if there's any
What the parameters.
see what the parameters are to give us, and then we could say, no, I like that, or I don't like that. I like that, but what about this?
So we did discuss it, and I think like you had communication things. He had a great idea, which I think his ideas is something we need to listen to, as far as carbon copying it and trying to get.
Are you highly against having conversations?
No, we're having. I'm here.
I know, but are you highly against that?
No,
Okay, good.
that's why
I
I'm
want
here.
to get
If I
I
can
told you
comment,
that
Eric,
when you called it.
I know that I came in and I was the one who mentioned this the first time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, by the way.
You're welcome. But listen, I didn't come here to sit here and just go, yep, second, yep, I'm good. No, I got nothing to say. I came here to disrupt and change and get our minds to think differently. It wasn't that I wanted to change the whole form of government. I'm okay with us trying to think through different boxes and portals. I don't want us to be stuck in the same way we've done it since, we've been here.
I'm for that too.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing.
Then you
That's
and I
all
are
we're
on the
doing.
same page.
We are on the
Good.
same page
Okay.
as far as that goes. And that's why I said when you called me, I'm all for improvement. I'm all for listening. And I have a very open mind about it. But I do research and I do study on things, pros and cons of different issues that come up. And there's a lot of things. I think there's some things we could improve on to make communication better and think
Well,
the
let's
city run more efficiently.
let's
And I
ferret
do believe
those
that.
out.
And
and
I'm
improve
waiting to see what Nancy has to say about certain things, and I like what Andy's had to say, and I'm glad you're staying, Andy. We appreciate that. And yes, Ashley's like a gold mine, but we need to keep the city right now moving the way it's going.
Have no intention of stopping that.
And if we can tweak our charter to make it better, give you maybe a little more authority, that's fine. If we can do that, fine.
I'm not even looking for that. And I'm as
Well, you just
a,
got a raise, so we're not.
as a current sitting mayor, I'm not looking at this for me. Again, I could be gone in April. Okay.
That's right.
So,
Well,
but
let's
I
try
have
to keep,
been I have
let's
been
try
in
to keep that from happening. Let's keep you in here. Let's keep that. Let's keep
again.
that
I'm gonna keep doing what I do, and if people like
All
it,
right.
they'll continue.
Well, they seem to.
So and I'm going to continue keeping on, and I think we're doing the right thing. I apologize; it's went longer than I expected, but I think it was a great conversation. I think we've really made some headway. Don't get your, as they say, your panties in a wad over talking about things that may seem
I don't wear panties.
transformational. Right?
Can we just publicly congratulate and Mike on getting 4.3?
And really, it's more than just one individual. A lot of people give me credit for it. I did.
You guys were there. You were in the battle.
And I pushed it to get a lobbyist and all that. But really,
You brought the idea to use the lobbyists, and man, that paid off big time.
yeah.
Right.
You know,
And that's what we do as a team. You do a lot of good things, but we all bring the chairs. We bring a lot of different things. You get a lot of good ideas too, and that's why I want to work. Have you get with Andy to meet with Daryl and look at the infrastructure yet?
I've met with every one of the heads.
Did you?
I haven't gone to the water treatment plant with Daryl yet. We have plans on that, and Ashley's setting that up.
Sitting there looking at the schematic of the water. That's why our water pipes is important, and he's got all this on the computer. He can click on it and tell you how big they are, where they run, how old they are, and this is really important information that we need to
that would
work on.
be a good presentation one night here. Let the residents see that.
That'd be a great presentation.
Because
by the way.
we are trying to accomplish, and this is where we need to get our grant people tied in and look at opportunities to say, hey, we've got tremendous requirements in this city, and we have needs that aren't getting met. And potentially, if we can be scouring the planet looking for areas we can get funding, alternative funding, the state of Florida, federal government, whomever, and try to get some of this potential unleashed in the city, it'd be great.
And I think all of us can do that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you brought. I think the best thing you said is it's not about me.
It's not, never has been.
And it's not about any of us. That's when I went door to door with you, and I told people I'm there for them. I want them when they're out and about, they're on their vacation, they're proud to come home, they're proud to call this their home, and this is something they can look forward to living in and make everybody's home more valuable without raising their taxes. I've talked about that for years. If you can raise people's value of the property, make people happy, and keep their taxes the same, you've done a good job.
Yep.
And we need a good city manager to keep that going.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've recovered through 2 hurricanes in 2 years.
Yep.
And that gives you some indication of the resiliency of the city.
And we didn't get to these places we're at now without taking some amount of risk, right? And talking about things that are hard to talk about. And I'll close with this. Going back to the lobbyist, we spent $32,000 to put it in place. There was no guarantee we'd get a penny, which was basically spending $32,000 of tax dollars for potentially nothing, right? And luckily we didn't have people come out and say, "Why are you doing this? Ridiculous, whatever." But we invested, and boy, did we reap a reward, right?
Yep.
32,000
That was good.
4.3 million is just I can't even.
Getting started. We're gonna keep
I
that
can't
going.
believe it. So when we talk about other things that are difficult and we have set in our ways, like you could have been sitting in the crowd saying, "Why they spend 32? Bay Boulevard has got potholes and all this, and they're spending 32,000 to hire somebody to go talk to the legislators. That's just ridiculous." People probably said that right at home.
They're quiet today.
Boy, they're quiet today. That's right. And because of that, we're probably going to be able to deliver on what? Well, probably we are going to deliver on water pipes,
Which we
very, very
desperately
quickly.
needed.
with
And
people
we
that-
got the dredging moving forward too.
So as we talk about things that are controversial, whatever, keep an open mind. That's why you're elected. That's why you're up here. To have cool minds, have conversations, and try to make good data-driven decisions. So don't put anything. No idea is a bad idea. The only bad idea is one that's never brought forward. So keep that in mind. And at the end of the day, like we are, we're moving forward as we are. But we're going to get some more information and see if there's anything else we want to change. But I think we've made a lot of progress. We've had a learning experience, and for that, I'm thankful.
A couple of good takeaways today. Andy suggested a communication effort to improve that process. I think that's great. We're going to follow up with the attorney to find out if there's some additional process or charter changes that could be made that would help facilitate better continuity.
Leadership
Yeah, exactly. I think these are good things. And we've had a discussion that we can't have anywhere else. You have to have it in the public right here. And this is a good forum. We took the time and we're receptive to, learning and looking at opportunities for the city to grow.
And before we close, Lynn, I know you're out here. Did you want to have any more comments to close? Anything else?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate you here.
Appreciate the public.
Uno publico.
Hey,
Don't be a
Anybody have anything
stranger.
else?
I've been doing it for 9 years. I just haven't done it for a couple.
Let's go for another 10.
9 years of city council meetings.
We appreciate it. Anybody else have anything before we close?
No.
Look for a motion.
Motion to close.
Second.
I have a motion, and I think Bob got it.
Yep,
So
I've got
all in
it.
favor